Carolina. Charlotte gets a Power 5 win. Man, what a weekend of college football. College football fans that we all are. I think we're all winners, even if your team ended up losing, which was not the case, Bill, for the Gamecocks with a 46-0 win over Eastern Illinois. What's your main takeaway from what you saw at Williams-Brice on Saturday night?
All right, now it's time to officially start the season. The scrimmage is over. We saw some things, I think defensively at least. We saw a few things offensively, but now this week we get to really start the season and see what the Shane Beamer era is all about. So I think it's a different conversation this week. I think it'll be a little bit more fun. Especially after what had transpired yesterday in Vegas with South Carolina and the point spread. And I know we'll get into that later, but yeah, it was a fun night. It was fun to see the crowd back. It really started Friday night, seeing the crowd back in Blacksburg for Virginia Tech and North Carolina in that wild game. But seeing the crowd back, seeing Georgia and Clemson over the weekend and the crowd there. So just a fun night at Williams-Brice Stadium, and South Carolina does what they're supposed to do. You guys kind of, I don't think you made fun of me, but you said, hey, shutting somebody out, that seems a little unrealistic. Yet there it was, 109 total yards. Eastern Illinois never really threatens the red zone. South Carolina's defense forces 2 turnovers, a third that was offset by a penalty, and just kind of does what they're supposed to do, takes care of business. That's my main takeaway is South Carolina goes out and just, I can't say it was the prettiest game to watch, but they do exactly what they're supposed to do, and it's 46-0.
Patrick, what about you? What's your big takeaway from the opening season win?
We exercised the demons of last year, I think. Everyone was really excited. The stadium looked like a great time. I was not there, but it looked electric. Everybody looked like they were having a good time. Scoring an early touchdown, going for 2 is about the most fun thing you can do to fire people up. I think pretty much everything went according to plan. Zero points allowed, 0 injuries of note. Is that right? I don't recall anyone getting hurt.
Yes, sir.
So you came out of this one about as good as you could feel. Luke Doty was padded up, jumping around, patting everybody on the helmet, running up and down the sidelines. Looked like he was being a leader out there. Everything was as easy as it could probably be for Zev Nolan. So yeah, I think everything went about as good as you could possibly imagine on Saturday. Eastern Illinois looked like one of the worst teams in the FCS, and South Carolina, I don't know if they looked better than we expected. I think they looked exactly like we expected. But no matter what, we could talk for weeks about, this is not going to be a close game. And people are like, no, come on. South Carolina always plays people closer than they're supposed to. And we'd say, no, not this team. This team is that bad. Trust me. And there was still always that doubt in the back of people's minds. So to go out and bump a team that you were supposed to dominate, beat them like you were supposed to, it felt pretty good. Covering a 40-point spread will always be impressive for South Carolina.
Well, Eastern Illinois didn't even have their starting quarterback play in this game either. Let's keep that in mind.
They had a 5-man battle for the starting quarterback, John. This isn't Bryce Young went down and their backup went in.
Okay, the guy who would play the entire first game for him, play it all because of a bad shoulder, and a Duke transfer ended up playing in this thing. So you're right. It's not like it was a quarterback who had never played or anything like that, but that's going to be the challenge, I think, this morning and this week for Gamecock fans to keep this thing in perspective or to understand what it is. It's always a challenge, Bill, early on in the season, right? I don't know how great that Florida State effort was, because I don't know if Notre Dame is really that good. I know they're number 9 in the country in the preseason, but last night the comeback, I know 38-20 was the score in the fourth quarter, and you might have turned it off. You might have gone to sleep. You might have missed Mackenzie Milton coming in and engineering a tremendous comeback, and then somehow got that game to overtime, and then they miss a field goal left. Notre Dame ends up making theirs, and Notre Dame survives. It looked like it was a tremendous Florida State effort, but it might turn out to be something that we all forget later on if Notre Dame doesn't turn out to be much of a football team the rest of the season. I just point that out by saying that Eastern Illinois we knew was not a good football team coming in. How much South Carolina did well and how much they took advantage of a poor football team on Saturday night, I think is going to be kind of a sliding scale or something that we're going to be trying to figure out all week long and maybe all season long. But Bill, why don't you give a little bit more about the Vegas action yesterday, just in case some others didn't pay attention or note that, because I thought that was very surprising to see East Carolina, I believe, a favorite heading into this weekend.
Yeah, I'm not exactly sure what's going on because I woke up to a text message. I had texted some buddies of mine that just the line, and somebody responded and said Vegas is wrong. So now I'm still trying to kind of go back through and dig to see what exactly is going on. But Tim, you kind of told me that Vegas is not wrong. And to answer your question, there's a couple different things here. Vegas Insider has it listed that South Carolina opened as a 3-point favorite, and it's now switched to East Carolina is a 2.5 point favorite. I believe there was a Twitter account, SEC Sports, yesterday that put out on Twitter that East Carolina opened as a 1-point favorite, and it instantly jumped to about a 4-point favorite. So I'm a little confused, but I guess the bottom line is that Vegas early on has said it where South Carolina is an underdog in this game. And I didn't think South Carolina was going to be more than a 6-point favorite a couple weeks ago when Stephen Igo was on. I was doing Heath's show, and then I had both he and I, and then even Brian Edwards from Vegas Insider, we all suspected the line would be South Carolina between a 3 and a 5-point favorite. So it wasn't that I thought South Carolina was going to be, more than a touchdown favorite or, a huge favorite in this game. I still suspected South Carolina was going to be the favorite. And over the weekend, the first games can adjust that some. East Carolina, I think we all agree, Tim, we were watching some of it on Thursday night as they played Appalachian State and there in Charlotte. And there was nothing there that made me think, okay, yeah, East Carolina is looking very good. Again, we know the opponent that South Carolina played, and so the 46-0 score wasn't a huge surprise. But again, we're surprised at this line, right? That East Carolina is favorite. Maybe now it makes this weekend a little bit more interesting now that you look up in Vegas, despite everything going on, seems to have East Carolina as the favorite. It tells you a lot about either what they're thinking or what they may know or what's going on.
Because they listen to the show. I feel like no one's been hyping up ECU outside of this show. Bill's been saying for weeks, I'm worried about them. I'm worried about these ECU Pirates.
Well, Patrick, there's a big difference between worrying about a game and going in as an underdog, right? Especially when you're an SEC team going to an East Carolina program that's been down now for years. And I get it that Mike Houston has gotten them back to respectability to a large degree, but we still saw Appalachian State have pretty much zero problem in that game the other night. I think 33-19, 10 of those points at least, I think, for East Carolina, maybe 14 scored in the fourth quarter. I'm very surprised that the Gamecocks sit here an underdog, especially after seeing what we saw on Saturday night. You're not?
No, I'm very surprised. I've been looking at Odd Shark to try and figure this out because I think Vegas Insider's wrong saying that South Carolina opened as a favorite and moved all the way the other direction. I don't think that's correct.
I'm seeing Bill. You mentioned last week, Bill, a lot the Action Sports Network. That's where I think we first found the spread, the 42-point spread that turned out to be pretty dang accurate, I think, for the Carolina Eastern Illinois game. It says that East Carolina opened up as a 2.5-point favorite on Action Sports Network. If that's going to be the official authority on odds on the show, it was last week anyway. We might as well stick with it this week. There you go. Is what I looked up this morning anyway. 2.5 for East Carolina.
It sounds like they're just buying into this, kind of what you said, Tim, and then we talked about it maybe a little bit more in the live stream than this, but this is the biggest game of the year for East Carolina. East Carolina or a Southeastern Conference team coming into their house, but going down the schedule, it's like they play Cincinnati, they play other teams that are contending to be the best or among the best of the group of five, and you'd think that would be a big deal for them, but it just doesn't hit the same as when a South Carolina team or an SEC team that everyone's talking about comes into your house. So I guess they're expecting a great turnout, a sellout. I don't know, what's the capacity of that stadium?
Not sure either. I would guess somewhere around 50. Bill, any kind of guess before you check? Looking it up.
I've never been in that stadium or seen it when it's jumping. I don't know how rowdy it can get there.
Tim is 1,000 people off 51,000,
Nice.
making it the second largest college stadium in North Carolina. By the way, did you see the tweet over the weekend? Does anybody know what was going on in North Carolina over the weekend? Did you see that you had East Carolina play on Thursday night? You had East Carolina and North Carolina State play on Thursday night. You had North Carolina, Duke, Charlotte, and Wake Forest. I think Wake Forest might have played Thursday night as well. They played Old Dominion. But North Carolina State, all of the North Carolina teams played either Thursday or Friday. I think somebody put a tweet out that said, these schools have a wedding to go to on Saturday. Is something going on where all the North
Carolina team too?
Yeah. App State, East Carolina, that Thursday night opener. Yeah, that is interesting. I didn't think about that until you said something. Yeah, maybe somebody made some moves. Maybe somebody made some moves. You never know. Travis hits us up on the Facebook live stream this morning. App State ran for more than 225 yards that night as well against East Carolina. LeVar and Anthony up with us on the YouTube live stream. Glad to see you guys up on the video stream sponsored by Buford Lending. No matter how you're getting us, we appreciate it. 803-404-6100, number into the program. You can call or text. So speaking of capacity, 51,000 in Greenville. I'm guessing they're expecting about that many for the South Carolina game. What'd you guys, Bill, what'd you make? I know you were there. I was there at Williams-Brice Saturday night. What'd you make of about 65,000 capacity or 65,000 announced crowd at Williams-Brice for the Shane Beamer's first ever game?
Yeah, that's about what we estimated. What I think the capacity now is 77 or 7. It's 77 some change, 76, close to 77. They took out about 7,000 seats there to make the Traditions Club, and I think added a few there with the 2001 club. But there was a reduced capacity going into last season, and so now you don't have 80,000 there at Williams-Brice, but you looked into the upper deck where typically the opposing team would have brought 6,000-7,000 and nobody was there, so it wasn't a shock, but it was a beautiful day, incredible day. It felt great out there tailgating. You didn't have one of those South Carolina early September days where it's 95 and 100% humidity and everybody's trying to survive the tailgate. It was actually a nice little breeze blowing. I thought it was a great day. Was not there at the Gamecock Walk, but certainly seeing the video of Shane Beamer and the team walking through Carolina Park and how that looked phenomenal. And 2001, the team coming out again, it was just nice to be back in the stadium and to see energy and people kind of being around each other and everything that kind of goes on. So it was a pretty good little environment, and I got a feeling it'll grow as you get the Kentucky game. If South Carolina can get to that 2-1, I think that'll be a pretty good environment going into maybe a night game. I don't know. The Kentucky game will be interesting to see what I think we'll find out next week what time that game will be.
To me, it was exactly just script, I think, in a lot of ways, except for being a sellout, which I think was a little unrealistic with an opponent like Eastern Illinois and knowing that the Clemson and Georgia game was at the same time. But you're not going to have a sellout in that game. You had pretty close to as good, I think, as you could ask for. And we'll get Shane Beamer's thoughts on his first game as a head coach and in this game particularly about what Carolina did. Beamer ball 2.0 is kind of the comment that stood out to me in the post-game press conference. And we'll let you hear a lot of that as we roll on this morning. Let you hear from Zeb Nolan, the national story. The Gamecocks popped up on the old college football final with my buddy Matt Berry. I was a little bit surprised because I was a little bit surprised by that, but then because of how they played it with Zeb Nolan and the graduate assistant story, that made a lot of sense. Obviously, we will get into Clemson and Georgia. Shocking that Clemson scores 3 points in the ball game, that both offenses shut out of the end zone in that game. Surprising, I think, to a lot of us that Georgia ends up getting the win at 10-3, and I think it adds to the celebration of Gamecock fans over the weekend for sure. It makes it one of the best Labor Day weekends in a long, long time for Carolina fans. So celebrate with us if you would like. Love to hear your thoughts. We see some of you on the Cool Care Heating and Air text line, that is, at 803-404-6100. Bill Gunter, Patrick Perrette and Jen Jensen with you. We got a full house. It's the early game. It's 107.5 the game.
All right, some water and some coffee. Or maybe orange juice.
Patrick, I'll be right back. I'm going to go grab some tissues. Allergic to being this morning.
I thought I was the one sniffing.
I think we both were.
Okay. Yeah. Sorry, I have not been in South Carolina for, what is it, the Monday, or over a week now. My allergies have for sure been acting up since I was at home in Maryland. I'm in Nashville. They've definitely been acting up here. Need to get back to a familiar environment. Morning, Anthony. Morning, LeVar. Yeah, and what South Carolina run for against 258 against Eastern Illinois, I think. Morning, Chris.
David, morning. Oh, yeah. Travis led off college football final there with those 10 TD passes. Crazy. Huh. Attaboy, Chris. Chris's daughter is actually on the Carolina cheerleading squad. He didn't just stand up in front of them. That would be weird. First game for her.
Five o'clock feels different than 6 o'clock.
What's that?
5 o'clock feels different than 6 o'clock.
Oh, no doubt, man. That extra hour.
Yeah.
It's about 3.
It helps and hurts sometimes. I mean, it helped Saturday night. I was so tired by the South Carolina game, but that thing ending an hour early was nice.
I need to get our pads. See how we did this weekend. It was some shocking.
Got it right here. We all missed Wisconsin.
Yep.
Patrick was the only one that got Bama right. We all missed LSU.
I was the only one that got South Carolina wrong.
Yep. And
Nobody got? You got Georgia right?
yep. So I was 2 and Bill was 1.
Yeah. Not a good weekend.
And Patrick, you were 2 as well. Right?
I do feel good about the Clemson game, though.
Alston picked 3 of the games. You know, he picked the same 5 we did. Alston went 3-2.
Did you play Maryland, Bill?
He had Georgia, UCLA, and South Carolina.
Did you play the Maryland game?
No, I stayed away from it. I didn't feel comfortable with a lot of stuff this week.
Yeah.
But I Friday night I started a parlay with North Carolina straight up. Obviously didn't get that one. And then Saturday I take Miami in a 10-point teaser, 29.5, thinking they'd lose. If they lose 38-10, I'd still cover. And it's 44-13, so I lost that one. I was like, good Lord. So no, I didn't do. It was not a successful weekend. After a successful week 0.
We kind of randomly ended up watching the Maryland game at a Bengals tight end's house. Nashville. Also, I drove through Blacksburg at 4:30 on Saturday and realized quickly that was a terrible idea. I didn't even think about traffic for the game. But my 9.5 hour ride ended up taking me 12.
Oh. Jen, can we do some audio coming back?
Yes.
You just got the play-by-play still?
Yeah, I've got them all.
Do number 5. Actually, we'll do number 1.
All right, turnover.
Travis, what was the Oklahoma number? 'Cause
32.5.
Tulane deserved to win that one.
Oh, sorry,
Yeah.
I just saw your message there, Jen. 11 through 15. I wanted to do 15. So why don't we do 5 and then 15, Jen? Straight back.
All right, straight in.
Yes, ma'am. 5 and 15, please. Thank you. Thanks for cutting that stuff.
Oh, no problem. Just, more technical crap.
Yeah, we're with you, Waddy.
Yep, that's it'll make this week interesting.
Play makes you smile. Download the TuneIn app so you can take 107.5 The Game with you wherever you go. And now, back to the early game. For better or worse, with Tim and Bill.
Josh Mann sets back to receive, and they pressure the punter, and they got him. They blocked the punt. 2 special teams plays already tonight, and this was going to be recovered
That's Beamer
around
ball.
the Panther 39-yard line. I saw Saquandre White and a couple others in there as well. Right up the middle, Jaheim Bell just pushed the blockers right back into the punter. Strawn, the transfer from Georgia State, there as well.
Anytime you can block a punt, anytime you can score on defense, you're probably going to win the majority of the time you do that. So the more that we can do that, the better. And certainly, if you want to call it Beamer Ball 2.0, then that was certainly a good start. We want to keep it going.
Shane Beamer after the 46-0 shutout win against Eastern Illinois. What first shutout since North Carolina? What was that date, Bill? Is that 2008 when Russell Wilson and company were at Williams-Brice Stadium? I think it might have even been before then.
No, you're right on the year. I think it was August 31st of 2018. I will look at that real quick to get you the exact date, but it was definitely 2008 because I was trying to explain to both kids that the last time South Carolina shut somebody out was before both of them were alive. So what they saw Saturday night is a very rare occurrence. I believe it is just the 3rd shutout for South Carolina this century. I believe was the stat I saw. I can't say that for certain, and not try to go back and check all the way back, but I believe it was the 3rd shutout for South Carolina this century.
To me, it was the special teams and the defense certainly standing out in this thing, and it was Jordan Strawn, I think, that got credited for that block kick that you just heard there. Debo Williams got credited for one as well. To see that first time since 04, I think, or maybe 14. Yeah, 2014. It was the Carlton Hurd blocked punt against Florida that helped lead to that massive comeback win in overtime. in the swamp, and that turned out to be Will Muschamp's final game there. So first block punt since 2014, first shutout since 2008. A night of first is exactly what you were looking for.
August 28th, 2008, South Carolina shutout North Carolina State 34-0. The one prior to that was August 31st, 2006. South Carolina goes to Starkville and wins 15-0. And then I think there was another shutout during the Lou Holtz era. I believe it was Arkansas. I'll have to go back and just see if I can confirm that one, but I believe that's your 3 shutouts this decade.
Billy hits us up on the Cool Care Heating and Air text line and says, all right, it was nice to see the Gamecocks coming in there and whipping some butt like they were supposed to handle their business. It was really nice to see the Georgia Bulldogs slapping down the Clemson Tigers, too. Great weekend. Love it. That's from Billy. Raphael says, good morning, gentlemen. Under Muschamp, Saturday's game would have ended at 24-10. By the way, how great was it watching Georgia miss the field goal and then the camera was on Will? Raphael taking some personal glee, I think, into the weekend. Richard, a few comments, says, glad Carolina didn't bore us to death running the ball. Told you guys we would come out and throw the ball. Great weekend. Both the Gamecocks and my Fighting Irish won. He adds that clearly you could see why Zeb Nolan started over everyone else. It wasn't close. He had a few passes, especially the play action deep pass at the beginning, slightly overthrown, but has a live arm and good touch on the ball. Offensive line doesn't look good, though. No push at all, but the defense played with a lot of fire. A lot there, Bill. Why don't we start with the Gamecock offense in general? First time we've seen it under new offensive coordinator Marcus Satterfield. What did you think overall about the Carolina offense and what went down in that 46-0 win against Eastern Illinois?
Kind of what I expected, still pretty bland. I went back and watched yesterday because as we were at the game, my initial reaction was that the offensive line really struggled. But as I went back and watched yesterday, there's a lot of times Eastern Illinois basically played South Carolina with 11 guys. I don't know what is the definition of the box. I don't know if that's like 6 yards or 8 yards. Do y'all know what the definition of inside the box is in football?
Yeah, how far out and how far wide, not sure. I just always heard it was the box. I think it just depends where the I would say within, what would you say, Patrick? 5 yards of the line of scrimmage? Maybe not even that much. Maybe 3 yards of the line of scrimmage?
Yeah, like directly behind the defensive line.
Yeah. But my point is there was a lot of plays in the first half where EIU put basically all 11 guys within 8 or 9 yards of the line of scrimmage. And basically at the snap, they were firing downhill into the gap, playing the run game. And if you go back and watch, a lot of the tackles and a lot of the lack of room to run was not because of the defensive line, but it was because the linebackers and the safeties were basically firing into the line of scrimmage almost at the snap. And you go back, Jalen Brooks is able to get behind the defense early on, and Zeb Nolan couldn't hook up. You go back to the touchdown pass by Josh Vann, and even again there, you got Josh Vann running wide open into the end zone, and you had, I believe, Jalen Brooks coming in on a slant, and he was wide open from the other side. So I'm kind of surprised, maybe a little bit, or maybe I'm not sure whether it's credit to Marcus Satterfield for saying, hey, this is our game plan and we can win like this and we're not going to show anything else, or whether you get a little concerned and say, boy, Marcus Satterfield didn't make any adjustments to what Eastern Illinois was doing and try and hit a few more long balls down the field because they were there. The opportunity to go deep was there a lot more than South Carolina tried, but they were content just to run into that box, run into the teeth of that defense, which again, let's not act like it's the Georgia defense that South Carolina's facing on Saturday night. They finally popped the long one with Zaquandre White there for 63 yards. But yeah, my initial reaction was, that offensive line. I'm a little concerned there. Going back and watching though, I said, okay, that's actually, it makes me feel a little bit better that Eastern Illinois was basically daring South Carolina to throw it, and South Carolina didn't really make the huge effort there. So that's number one. Zeb Nolan, we'll see. His accuracy, I think, left a little bit to be desired. You go back to the touchdown catch by Jaheim Bell was a little high. Jaheim Bell made a great catch on that one. There was another pass to Josh Vann on a third down where Zeb Nolan was getting hit. there in the first half, and Van made an incredible catch across the middle and then ran for the first down. There was a few passes early on that was a little off, and we'll see if he has to play this weekend. My expectation, based on pregame, Patrick, I know you weren't there, so you didn't get to really see it. My expectation, though, is that Luke Doty will be the guy this week. I know last night Shane Beamer doing a little bit of gamesmanship and saying he will not name a starting quarterback until Saturday. So Beamer holding his teleconference last night, but I think it'll be Luke Doty, and that will be kind of interesting to see. It wouldn't surprise me if you see both of them this weekend. There's a little bit of a quarterback rotation. So one other thing, the offensive line, because I thought that they were upset and we're making some adjustments because of lack of blocking. But in the post-game press conference, Shane Beamer admitted they were rotating offensive line, subbing them in and out, just kind of like you would do with wide receivers or with running backs, just playing different guys and just seeing how they did. So maybe a little bit of continuity there if you keep the same 5 in this week and roll with it from there. So, you take a few things away, but I think this week we find out more what this offense is and just what exactly they're trying to accomplish.
Let me put some numbers to some of the thoughts that Bill just expressed. Zeb Nolan, 13 out of 21 passing, 121 yards, 4 touchdowns. No interceptions, no sacks against him, just 1 sack against the Gamecock quarterback all game long, and that came on the fumble from Jason Brown in the fourth quarter. Brown came in the fourth quarter, went 4 for 5 for 45 yards, and then Colton Gauthier came in for the last series and ended up completing 1 pass for 19 yards as well. So overall, the Gamecocks 18 out of 27 passing for 185 yards, 4 touchdowns, just the 1 sack, no interceptions. From a rushing standpoint, Carolina ran the ball 47 times for 254 yards, about 5.5 yards per carry. Zaquandre White leading the way with 128 yards, and almost half of those coming on that 63-yard touchdown run. You're talking about, Bill, that happened in the fourth quarter. Marshawn Lloyd got the most carries. He had 14 of them for 55 yards, just less than 4 yards per carry. Juju McDowell with 12 carries as well for 42 yards. Jaheim Bell had a couple of carries for 16 yards, had a big touchdown run that ended up getting called back because of a Nick Muse holding call on that one. The second touchdown called back, I think it was in the third quarter, if I'm not mistaken. It was a pick 6 by Jalen Foster that ended up getting called back as well because a defensive back lined up just off sides. So could have been a little bit different stat-wise had some things stood, and the numbers not telling the full story in this one, but impressive overall. The most impressive part to me, Bill, was that the Gamecocks gave up, 109 yards overall, 108 yards of total offense for Eastern Illinois, and 0 points. To me, that's the one that's kind of like the shining neon light in this ballgame.
Did what they had to do. I mean, I don't know if I'm surprised by that or you take something away from that. All I really do is take away that's what you're supposed to do to that kind of opponent, is stop them from really generating any offense, and that's precisely what South Carolina does. They hold them to just 109 yards. Again, that's nothing to really brag about and get excited about, but what it is something to say is, okay, that's what they were supposed to do, is absolutely dominate an inferior offense, and they did that. Now this week, you take a step up in competition. You go on to an offense that's got a lot of returners, that's got a 3-year starter at quarterback, that has some wide receivers that can run around. So you take the next step against competition. But I will say Clayton White, I like the scheme. I thought the defensive line, again, did what they were supposed to do, dominated an inferior opponent. The secondary looked aggressive. You get the first defensive play of the Clayton White era is a batted pass by Darius Rush that gets picked off. I don't care who the opponent is. The interception and run by Jordan Burch was extremely impressive and athletic. And Jordan Burch has got some wheels, doesn't he?
20 miles per hour. He got up to 20 miles per hour on that thing. It's crazy.
Yeah, I mean, I don't care if it's the Dutch Fork JV team or Eastern Illinois or Georgia or Clemson, the athleticism to jump up, and snatch the ball out of the air and then take off and run the other way was very, very impressive from Jordan Burch. But again, to me, it's basic. They did what they were supposed to do, and it's okay. Great job again. Now we find out this week you take the step up and we see how it goes. And then, I know we'll talk Georgia Clemson Yeah, Clemson's defense is incredible, but I'm not impressed with Georgia's offense either. JT Daniels is Patrick, I don't know. We'll get into it later. How you feel about your national championship pick? Georgia's defense is phenomenal. Their offense, though, it leaves a lot to be desired.
They're all hurt.
Well, are they going to come back? Are they going to be back this year? I mean, are you going to get Darnell Washington?
Yes.
Eric Gilbert's done with college football, right?
No.
I'd be shocked if he comes back in any sort of meaningful way at this point.
Yeah,
I wouldn't be shocked. I mean, it's
shocked.
He's got to figure things out for sure. He hasn't even been with the program yet, but I mean, when you're as talented as him, and you have millions of dollars in your future hinging on you playing football, I'm sure something will find its way to be worked out. But also, George Pickens will be back most likely in November, so we'll see. But that's I feel good about my national championship pick because everyone on the Georgia defense is going to the NFL. They're just ridiculous.
I mean, to hold that Clemson offense like they did was really impressive. And speaking of defensive numbers, the number that stands out to me defensively for Carolina, 12 yards. That was the longest play Eastern Illinois had in the entire ballgame. Wanted to get a more seasoned, wiser approach about what happened over the weekend on the Love Chevy phone lines. Now our buddy Gamecock Larry's been waiting very patiently to weigh in. Good morning, Larry.
Good morning. Hip, hip, hip hooray. What a day for ukulele. 2 yards on the ground. Get those intercepting for a touchdown. 7 times on his back from a big old Georgia sack. They both say there's better days ahead for DJ playing in the ACC. Cool. I didn't want to say it, but the Bulldogs look pretty good. What do you think about that? 2 total yards on the ground. What you got to say?
Yeah, Bill, what do you got to say? Come on. We didn't want to step on your poem if it was going to continue, Gamecock Larry. That was beautiful prose you had written there. Yeah, that's what we were just saying. Georgia looked pretty good, man, especially on defense. It was quite the slugfest.
Bulldog Larry has come. I think he's come around. He's with Patrick now. He's got his national title pick. That's what I say.
Did he write that?
Of course he wrote that. That was a Gamecock Larry original. He is a poet.
Oh, it's outstanding.
Larry, are you just going with the Clemson and Georgia take? He just dropped his mic with his poem, and that was it? Nothing about Shane Beamer and Eastern Illinois? All right. You never know with Gamecock Larry. That's part of the reason he's our favorite 87-year-old caller. 803-404-6100. If you would like to join the show, you can call or text that same number, 404-6100. Carolina football victorious in game number 1. We'll get a little bit more when we come back into the overall winners and losers for college football in a tremendous week 1 that will conclude tonight with Lane Kiffin not being able to be on the sideline, having recently tested positive for the virus for Ole Miss, taking on Louisville tonight. Last night, epic Florida State, Notre Dame in overtime. Tremendous games all over the place all weekend long. It's the early game on a holiday edition of the program here on 107.5 The Game.
College football playoffs are here.
Sometime. True as.
A foundation for the future. We could be talking about this morning as it pertains to football. If it pertains to your house, it's a totally different story. That's where you need to go to cantycanfixit.com. Canty Foundation Specialists are the guys you need to call if you're having any kind of cracks in your exterior brick, cracks in your walls, or above windows, door frames especially. Maybe your doors or windows stick. You got uneven or bouncy floors, cracks over your garage door. That's all signs of foundation problems, and Canty can take care of that for you. Again, cantycanfixit.com, CANTEY, canfixit.com. I think you guys can figure out the end of that one. Also, if you have crawl space issues, maybe you recently experienced a storm. You might have standing water down there under your home, high humidity or condensation in that crawl space. That's not a good sign either. That means mold, mildew, pests, including termites, could happen. Moisture could lead to wood rot and floor joist problems, musty smells or odors coming from mold and mildew in your crawl space. That could have health issues for you and your family. Let Canty take care of all of that for you. They've been doing it. This is what they do. They are the foundation specialists, the Canty Foundation Specialists. Again, you can find them on the internet, cantycanfixit.com.
Did you see Brian Kelly's post game?
I was just reading about that. Something about execution.
Yeah, it's an old, stupid line, and it just didn't. It came off as classic Brian Kelly to me.
Whose line is it?
Sean McKay with the Tampa Bay Bucks. He was asked, "What'd you think about your team's execution?" He said, "I'm in favor of it." But the way that Brian Kelly did it just didn't hit at all.
I'm in favor of execution. I think maybe our whole team needs to be executed tonight. We didn't execute very well. There's
just one in overtime at Florida State.
There's no comedic timing for it.
Just brutal. Yeah, Lou Holtz used to bust that one out back in the day.
I will admit, I don't mind Brian Kelly, so I kind of don't mind it, and I agree with him. Like Brian Kelly's not known as being funny, so
at all.
How about old Kerry Tharp getting his pick correct with Denny Hamlin?
Nailed it.
Had some inside knowledge. I think I'm going to put last night under investigation. I would like a.
You do that.
Well, you got to start the appeal process then. Go to the website, NASCAR Pick'em, earlygame.com.
Fill out the proper forms to submit the.
Yeah. In triplicate.
Yeah, I'm not going to lie. Once I looked and Kyle Busch was out, I didn't watch another second of the race. And he was apparently out really early.
And he was very angry with 2 expletives on the air.
Well, that's what I had to go through Twitter to see what happened, and I saw some people talking about it. So I was like, well, okie dokie then.
Yep.
Did we figure out the 5 players who were suspended, the 4 beside R.J. Roderick? I had no clue.
I don't know. There was a bunch of them that were not dressed out.
Well, there are 5 players suspended. I know that. I know R.J. Roderick was one of them. I just don't know any of the other names. I don't remember any notable guys not dressing. Side Roderick.
Well, the guys I know that didn't dress was like Isaiah. Was it Isaiah Norris, LaDarian Craig, O'Donnell Fortune.
And what, Omega Blake? Did he play?
I believe he was not dressed. There was one other player that I was a little surprised was not dressed. Oh, I think then people got kind of fired up because Beamer said he was sick, but obviously Kevin Harris was not dressed and not there.
All right, a list of winners here. College football week 1.
Oh, Jamie Robinson didn't play the first half last night because
he was
ejected for targeting. Nobody remembers that, right?
That's right. He did. He was playing down the stretch though. Made a few good plays. And Thomas got a bunch of time on the line there.
Who?
Here, Thomas.
Yeah, he was playing. I saw him out there. I didn't see John Dixon playing for Penn State. Helinski didn't play for Northwestern. If he did, it was the very end when I'd cut it off.
Boy, they look awful.
They were brutal.
Let's do some sound here.
Okay.
Whatever you would like to do. And just go 11 then, if you would like me to call for one.
Kier Thomas had.
We're always going to celebrate wins. The fun they had out there on the field tonight. I love coaching these guys. I love being the head coach here at South Carolina. And tonight, without a doubt. Kudos to our defense, pitch a shutout.
Shane Beamer, after the 46-0 win over Eastern Illinois to start his head coaching career, to me, a lot of questions were answered sidelines
Here and how the team would look overall. Shane Beamer had fun with it, though. He just enjoyed being there, and I think he towed the line between being able to show that and then being in control, being a head coach. He even kind of made fun of himself afterwards. He said he called himself crossing his arms on the sideline like his dad did a bunch, and some of the mannerisms that we saw from Frank Beamer for decades at Virginia Tech.
Yeah, I mean, this was a game where he could be a little bit more of a fan, I guess, so to speak, where he could be a little bit more in tune with the atmosphere and the environment. I don't know if you can do that every week. You can't do that next week, and you really can't do it when you go to Athens, and we prefer you not do it when Kentucky comes to town, and you get the opportunity to get a more capacity or more fans in the stands and probably a different environment. But it was a game, again, for everybody where you could be a little bit more loose, a little bit more lighthearted, and certainly it worked. And he's right. Players looked like they had a blast, which they needed. We talked about it, especially the way last year ended and the beatings that were taken week in, week out. That was a football team that needed to have a little bit of joy and get out there and return the favor to somebody and beat up on them.
A team and a fan base, I think. And as I wrote down some week one winners and losers, the winners did include Frank Beamer's former team in Virginia Tech with the big upset against North Carolina on Friday night. Then you had Charlotte beating the Power 5 team in Duke at home Friday night as well. Georgia, obviously, in that 10-3 win against Clemson Presbyterian with 10 touchdown passes. More winners in college football. On the other side, it was a bunch of ACC teams and LSU. Tough losers in week number one. UCLA getting that win against LSU. We'll talk plenty more about that as we roll into hour number 2 here on the early game.
I haven't looked but I talked to Andy, my buddy Andy down in Tampa. He said he was going to try and go to Tampa Bay, Dallas Thursday night, but he said ticket prices are ridiculous.
I think so. Opening night, defending Super Bowl champions, Tom Brady, the Cowboys.
Yeah, he said tickets were absolutely ridiculous.
After a year where there were not fans in the stadiums, yeah, I think it'll be pretty comfortable.
I saw your email, Jen, about the traffic stuff. Thanks for sending that.
Yep.
That'll have you covered. I think on a Labor Day Monday morning, we'll be all right. Get over it.
I'm really not worried.
Bless you.
There you go.
Oh, it feels really good this morning.
Other than it means I can't put in the sports flash.
Gotcha. In the butt, huh? you really want me to try to do it, I can. I think I can get there to file manager.
Nah. It is not necessary. I can push a button pretty easily. Now, especially now that, I'm not cutting audio right now, so it's not like I'm having to use it for both things.
Gotcha. Patrick, I thought about having my wife give you a call yesterday. She was not pleased that I needed to do the church service that messed up our church plan yesterday morning, but got it done.
What time do you guys go?
Typically 9:30 or 11:30, and then so that 10:30 turnaround time kind of screws up the early plans. So that was the plan yesterday, and then to get up with her family and do some Labor Day stuff.
Oh, you can go. You could make 11:30.
Yeah, but the baby can't these days. And that kid's not a baby anymore. He was out running around the flag football game yesterday, going nuts.
Uh-oh.
Nuts in a good way. Just being able to run around, try to tackle his brothers.
Yeah, he probably loves that.
Sure. All that audio cut now, Jen. We're good to go.
Yeah, we have all of Dave's and all of what I cut. So, yep, it's all good.
Nice work.
Kind of disappointed I fell asleep now for that Florida State game.
Dude, it was incredible. Incredible. Yeah, and really the only reason that I stayed up for it is I still needed to listen to the post-game stuff and try to get some of that done. So I was doing that with one eye on just the game. It was 38-20. I just assumed it was over. My wife had gone to bed, even though she's a Florida State grad. And then they bring in Milton and storybook stuff, man. Mom's crying up there in the stands.
Yeah, I was gonna say, it sounds like he had to. They didn't bring him in. I was like, they had to put him in because Travis's helmet popped off, I guess. And
yeah, right. But they didn't have to keep him in, and they just kept him in.
Or what? He completed his first pass. It was like the way it reads is he completed his first pass for 19 yards. They're like, well, give him another play, and his next play was a success. And they're like, yeah, all right, give him a third play. And then it was a touchdown. They're like, you know what? Maybe we should leave this guy in.
Yeah, it was pretty awesome to watch, man.
But yeah, I mean, again, it went to commercial or something. It was 38-20, and I just closed my eyes because it wasn't like I cut the television off. I just woke up, and it was about 2:30 in the morning, and the TV was still on, and I kind of was like, hey, what happened?
Yeah, that happened to me in the Georgia Clemson. So how long did you make it at the game? I left with my kids at halftime.
We ended up staying the whole game. I didn't think I was going to do that, but we ended up staying the entire game. I mean, I was hobbling around still. My leg was better. My knee is better. My ankle's better, but we just ended up staying. I got back to the tailgate, and we watched the final 5 or 6 minutes of Georgia Clemson, and then we left. It kind of worked well by staying for the rest of the game and then watching the end. By the time I went to leave, traffic cleared out. I think I got home at 12:30. So nothing like that nice long day. This is where I'm becoming old and slightly grizzled about night games because that was getting out there at 1:30 and getting home at 12:30 was.
You guys see that note? There's an 8th-year senior for East Tennessee State, a linebacker, who played for Temple first. Temple was Derek Mason's career debut, and Temple beat Vandy. And then East Tennessee just ruined Clark Lee's debut there, 23-3.
Yeah.
Hilarious.
I feel pretty confident that will definitely be at least one more win for South Carolina now. I don't know if they'll get to 3, but
Got a boy, Elton, weighing in from West Virginia this morning. Good morning up in West Virginia. I know a lot of people are disappointed up there. They lost to Maryland. You watch any of that game, Patrick?
Yeah, I was watching that at the Bengals tight end's house.
Like what?
How did that happen?
My cousin was worked in music and made friends with this kid from Auburn, who was like great friends with CJ Uzama, the Bengals tight end, and he's got a house in Nashville. And doesn't report until a couple days from now, so he was watching it here.
So there?
Huh?
He was there too, or were you guys just dressed
No,
up?
he was there. Yeah. It was weird. There was only like 8 of us there. One of them was CJ Uzama, and the other one was Jeff Fisher's son.
Wow.
Weird
Jen, can we start with number 1 here off the top?
Yep, turnover.
Yes, ma'am.
Yep.
Thank you.
Yeah, I'm reading some of these comments on Twitter and stuff. The Applebee's commercial, they've got to get that off the air.
Why?
Bill just wants to sing it.
Nobody. I think
Just
the
like an
song
air-
might have been okay if they did not include the dance. The dances jump the shark.
Jealous because you can't dance.
Trenick will start at quarterback
Song is
for EIU. The Panthers on the left hash mark. Trenick wants to throw. Ball tipped up in the air. Picked off on the near sideline. Jalen Foster, the first turnover of the year for the Gamecock defense on the first daggum play from straight. The Gamecocks have got it inside the 30-yard line of EIU.
A little ode to Bobby Bowden there from Todd Ellis on the call. You heard it right here on 107.5 The Game, courtesy of Learfield Sports. Very first play of the season. Darius Rush gets a hand on that ball. Jalen Foster right there. Foster would later return another interception for a touchdown in the third quarter. That one got called back because of penalty. That interception that you just heard did not. The Gamecocks would take advantage, and Zeb Nolan would eventually find Nick Muse for the touchdown. And off and running, the Gamecocks went in the 46-0 season opening win against Eastern Illinois. Welcome into hour number 2. Hope your Labor Day's off to a good start. Glad you're making us a part of your holiday weekend, and it's a weekend to celebrate. That's my big takeaway, Bill, for Gamecock football. No matter how you look at this thing, 100% positive, I think, right now. It wasn't a perfect game. It certainly wasn't a perfect, challenging opponent, anything like that, but it was a perfect start to the Shane Beamer era in that there is excitement, enthusiasm, and positivity back around Gamecock football that just simply hasn't been there for a while. You combine that with a Clemson loss over the weekend. It's something Gamecock fans haven't really experienced in a long time. How many Monday morning football therapy sessions have we done in the last couple of years with 16 combined losses in the last 2 seasons? It's at least 16, and it feels like a lot more than that. So just the fact that you're kind of on the other end of the emotional spectrum from a Gamecock fan perspective, I think long overdue, and exactly what this fan base could use. That's my big takeaway to start hour number 2. Bill, what about you?
It is technically, I don't know if you guys saw this put out Saturday night, Sunday. It is technically the first Monday morning therapy session we have ever done with that as the scenario. The last time that South Carolina won on a Saturday, there was another one. There's been 2 other times, but the last time on a Saturday South Carolina won and Clemson lost was 2014 when South Carolina beat Florida. That was you referenced that one. I think it was the Carlton Hurd blocked punt game, the final game for Will Muschamp down there at Florida. South Carolina beat Florida, and Clemson lost to Georgia Tech. So that was the last Saturday that this happened. The last time that it happened in the same day was a Monday, January 1st, 2018. South Carolina beat Michigan in the Outback Bowl, and Clemson lost to Alabama in the football playoff. And then we did a show on Tuesday morning. I was down in Tampa for that. So it is a very, very rare occurrence. Let's just go with that right now, where you get the doubleheader, the double whammy there with South Carolina fans celebrating. So you enjoy it. You enjoy it for today. I'm not sure how many more times that'll happen. I kind of now expect Clemson to run the gauntlet here and finish 11-1. So I don't know if you'll get that opportunity again the rest of the year, but you enjoy it. You take it for what it's worth today, and you get a few of your shots in on your Clemson buddies, because I'm not sure you get that again maybe for a few more years.
That almost made it sound worse. That the last time this happened was Clemson losing in the national championship and South Carolina winning the Outback Bowl.
No, wasn't the national
and that was the last 18 wasn't the national championship?
No, they lost in the first round. They were the 4 seed against Alabama in the 1 seed. That day was Georgia, Oklahoma in the Rose Bowl, and I forget which game. Georgia, Oklahoma played that great Rose Bowl game first.
Yeah.
And then I think Clemson lost 24-6 there in the whatever bowl it was.
Either way, lost to number 1 Alabama, and then this time they lose the top 5 team while South Carolina beats an FCS opponent.
Yeah, like I said, enjoy it, because it probably won't happen again.
But just on a quick note that we don't want to stay on, but the message boards and some of the Twitter posts were hysterical. It was like, do you Clemson fans, maybe they need to learn to lose, because, I mean, there were some calling for Dabo's head and put a sign in his yard to sell his house. It was like, really? I don't know. It was kind of amusing. I understand Gamecock fans being to that point on a regular basis, but, I don't know. It was amusing.
Well, 2 rushing yards was kind of unfathomable, and the way the offensive line looked for Clemson with 4 returning starters, the way that Georgia was able to dominate all night long, 180 total yards is what Clemson had. On the flip side of that, though, you can't talk about that game without being impressed with Clemson's defense as well. It's not like Georgia was running up and down the field on them at all. 256 yards of total offense. And I think if your defense averaged that the last 5 years, you'd lead the country in total defense in the country. So you got to give Clemson's defense a bunch of credit as well. Excuse me. The fact there's only 1 touchdown in the ball game that came on the pick 6, and the offense is only able to muster a field goal each. To me, this was a couple of defenses, really good defenses right now ahead of offenses. And you can give whatever kind of reasons you want to. You can say, DJU didn't play very well for Clemson. You could say that Georgia had a bunch of guys out, which is true, I think, on both accounts. But to me, I give defenses a ton of credit. Bill, I know you talked about how you thought it was going to be a defensive slugfest, but surely you were still surprised by the numbers in this thing and just how much of a stalemate it was, weren't you?
Yeah, I thought both. I mean, I picked Clemson to win because I thought that Clemson's offense would be able to do just a little bit more than Georgia's offense. I thought Clemson might be able to get to 17 or 20 or 21 and hold Georgia to 14 or 17. So both of them, both sides, kind of surprised at the offense on both sides. Although I guess, again, from a Georgia standpoint, some injuries and some guys being out at wide receiver, some guys being out at the tight end position, and not really knowing how good JT Daniels was. Again, I think it was Brian Edwards with Vegas Insider who I talked to back in the middle of August, who kind of pointed out some of JT Daniels' stats there at the end of last season when he beat up on a bad Mississippi State team, a really bad South Carolina team, a COVID-riddled Missouri team, and then struggled in the bowl game against Cincinnati. He was kind of quick to point that out, that maybe the JT Daniels hype shouldn't be there. So I kind of thought Clemson's offense would be able to do a little bit more, whereas Georgia's was going to have a hard time. And kind of crazy to see a football game. I think Tim Bourret, the long timer. He might still be the sports information director, always coming up with stats. I think he put a stat out that it was the last time Clemson lost a football game where they didn't give up an offensive touchdown. Did you guys see this?
No, didn't.
1982. They lost to Georgia 13-7. Clemson gave up a punt return for a touchdown, and that's the last time they lost to Georgia in 1982. That's the last time that they lost a game in which they did not give up an offensive touchdown. So kind of interesting.
Tim Bourret, a Notre Dame grad as well. If you didn't stay up late last night, you missed a classic as well. Florida State coming back from down 38-20. Mackenzie Milton, the UCF transfer, who had a devastating knee injury, coming in and helping to lead that comeback, force overtime. And then it was Notre Dame surviving in overtime, getting the field goal win there. But a great way to cap a holiday weekend. And I say that knowing that you still have one more game coming up tonight. It will be Lane Kiffin-less Ole Miss, because he tested positive for the virus, won't be on the field for the Rebels tonight, going up against Louisville, 8 o'clock on ESPN. One more college football game to cap a tremendous first weekend around college football. We'll continue to discuss various games, but let you hear a little bit more from Shane Beamer when we come right back and focus on the Gamecocks for sure. Love to hear your thoughts this morning. 803-404-6100. I guess the question from my perspective, Bill, is how much are you encouraged by South Carolina's win? It was a dominating performance, but knowing the opponent, knowing now that Vegas doesn't even have Carolina as a favorite going into East Carolina this Saturday, how much were you encouraged? Are you encouraged for the 2021 season after the 46-0 shutout victory to start the year and start off the Shane Beamer era? We'll break it down. Glad you're a part of the holiday program. It's the early game on 107.5 The Game.
This is South Carolina head women's basketball coach Dawn Clear, and you're listening to the home of the Gamecocks, WNKT FM, Eastover, Columbia, 107.5 The Game.
Oh,
What a trick.
What was the issue with the student section last night or Saturday night?
I don't know. Apparently there was a problem with getting it. I saw the tweet put out, but I didn't hear a story about it or anything else. Bill, you hear anything?
about what now?
Apparently that's enough. Gamecock Athletics just put out a tweet saying they apologize for not hearing me.
No, I said what, and you said that's a no. What was the what was you said a tweet or a game by the with the what, the reception or
student section?
No, just issues.
Student section.
About the student section.
I guess the word was that they oversold the lower deck, that there was too many tickets, and so that then they tried to make the rest of them go to the upper deck, and it didn't go well, or I don't know.
I mean, I saw this video.
Yeah, I saw that one too. Where
What
they
is the video
basically-
supposed to? What's
It's
the
just
video?
the-
Oh,
that's
students
outside.
outside.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
there was only like one gate open or something like that, and
Well,
then
plus-
it sounded like some of the people who were working the gates, there were expletives thrown, and and that wasn't. Of course, I'm sure it was coming from the student side too, but yeah, it was not good. And you just look at a social distancing nightmare there.
Yeah, I thought the student section was good overall in the stadium. I didn't know about any of the problems getting them into the stadium.
Yeah, no, they look solid.
The corners weren't quite filled, but that didn't surprise me, I guess. But hearing that stinks. Dale said he worked the student gate, and it was a mess.
Oh,
I didn't fun at all, Dale.
We went in pretty early. I was in. That's probably the earliest I've been in the stadium. In
We were in 65 minutes, I think, is what we saw on the clock when we got in.
Yeah.
Kids watched them warm up.
Yeah, we wanted to be in place and not racing to go sit down.
Yep.
And then it was crazy to me because I'm still not used to the air-conditioned mezzanine, So we were sitting there watching warm-ups, and it didn't seem like there were that many people in the stadium. And then I went down in the air conditioning on the concourse there, and it was slammed. Everybody's just hanging out in there watching TV, the whole thing.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Saw your dad wandering around over there.
Yeah, he'd never been over there, and they gave him some tickets just to kind of go over there and kind of see things. So he went over there and just kind of scoped it out. It was funny because he was like, yeah, I'm gonna go watch 2001 from there and watch maybe the first quarter or something. I said okay. So we're going on in. So we all went in. He went over there to check it out, see what it was like. So we're in our seats. We're kind of hanging out. And I turn around. Here he comes. He's like, yeah, I don't like it over there. I'm gonna go. I like it over here better. Yeah, okay.
They make you pay for stuff over there. No good.
Yeah. I had the little slip up. I had the bourbon. And I thought I got the water. I thought I put water in it. Instead, I put tonic water.
Ooh, that'll change it.
I tried to fight through that for a little while.
And you finally gave up.
Yeah, it's like it ain't working. Well, I think I finally was just like, that's it. I'm putting Sprite in there.
Ugh. Yeah. Not that much different. Jen, let's go 7 and then 14, please. Coming back.
Okay.
Thank you.
Is it calling for rain today?
Yeah, this afternoon and tonight.
What is the chances for rain tonight? Like we know.
Like 40%.
What time is that supposed to start?
Looked like it was later.
Austin's supposed to have soccer practice.
Yeah, you probably get it in. It's like through the 8 o'clock hour, like 25% chance.
Yeah, it looks like it come home.
White is split out. Empty backfield. 5 wide receivers. Blitz. Nolan throws in a flat. Got it. White leaping for the end zone. Touchdown, Carolina. Touchdown, Zaquandre White from 9 yards out.
Just really, really thankful and fortunate and grateful to be here. And it was really just just a fun night. I was going to make sure certainly I did what I had to do as the head coach to make decisions throughout the night, but I made sure that I was going to also enjoy the heck out of it as well, and I did.
46-0, the final score. Best case scenario in a lot of different ways for Gamecock football. Patrick, you mentioned earlier, no injuries that we know of coming out of that thing. Luke Doty and Kevin Harris supposed to be available for week number 2, where you get certainly a step up in competition. Bill, I think a lot of us surprised yesterday when you see Vegas has East Carolina established as a couple of point favorite, up to 4 points, as many as 4 points in this ball game coming up on Saturday, because of not just the final score. A lot of times these games, it's a 46-0 game. You've got an SEC team against an FCS opponent. A lot of times the final score is not necessarily indicative. It can go either way. I think this one's about exactly what that game was. And to know that Eastern Illinois managed just a little bit more than 100 yards of total offense. Their longest play from scrimmage was 12 yards. The Gamecocks scored in multiple ways with a pick six, with blocking a couple of punts. Didn't score in special teams, but blocked those punts to set up the scores. 4 touchdowns by starting quarterback, former graduate assistant Zeb Nolan, and then a rushing game that was pretty dominant, though without one guy who did it the whole time. To me, this was what you were looking for, I think, from a Gamecock perspective in game number 1. How do you see it, Bill?
The game of the line, because I was preparing for a hot take on the spread. Real quick, I mean, look, I think there will be the people who say, well, Vegas is usually right. They have those tall buildings for a reason. But, 4 out of the 5 games we picked this week, they weren't really close. They had Wisconsin as a favorite. Wisconsin loses by a touchdown, 6 points to Penn State. They had Miami being a 19.5-point underdog. They get drubbed by 31. They had LSU as a favorite on the road. UCLA whips them, and they had Clemson as a favorite, and obviously Georgia wins that one. So it's not like Vegas always gets these things right. So there's no need to be that person who's like, oh, well, this is terrifying. That's scary. I think they also had Oklahoma as like a 32-point favorite, and obviously Oklahoma. They also had North Carolina as a favorite, so had North Carolina loses. So, it's not like Vegas is the Bible when it comes to telling you the exact point spread. But in terms of the game on Saturday night, again, I think you can be ultra positive guy and say, oh, okay, South Carolina, this is a team now that'll win 7 or 8 games. I don't know if that's the case. I think you take it for what it is. It was an inferior opponent. South Carolina did what they were supposed to do. And the good thing about that is you haven't seen that in a while from South Carolina. I guess maybe last year on the road at Vanderbilt, a bad Vanderbilt team, South Carolina smashed them 41-7 in the second half. But it's been a while since you've seen South Carolina come out and really get it going early on. Obviously, the 3 and out to start, but then the interception, South Carolina was able to go down the touchdown pass from Nolan to Nick Muse. Then South Carolina, and then the 2-point. By the way, did anybody see the 2-point play, or was everybody too busy? Like, that was such a surprise. I didn't see the actual play until yesterday rewatching it. I didn't know that they snapped the ball and threw it over there. I thought there was like an end around or some kind of weird play because I was too busy like high-fiving my son and talking to him, and all of a sudden Nick Muse is running in the end zone. I'm like, oh, did something go wrong there? And South Carolina just got the 2-point conversion. That actually, the whole special teams thing, aside from a couple blocking the backs, that was actually pretty impressive there. I think the Kerryon Joyner could have blocked their first punt. It's like he got to the punter and he pulled up for fear of a roughing the punter call.
Yep.
It was impressive, but again, let's be honest, it's an inferior opponent. It's a team that we had talked about for weeks. Like, hey, this is why we're not worried about the quarterback situation. This is why the quarterback situation completely doesn't matter for this particular game. South Carolina should roll regardless, and they do. Now competition takes a step up with East Carolina, and it'll take another pretty drastic step up in week 3 with Georgia. But certainly it's nice to see South Carolina go out, take care of business, be up 29-0. And somebody hit us up on the text of the Cool Care Heating and Air text line, and as they said, or maybe it was on the live stream, said, I didn't know the rules allowed us to try and score at the end of the first half with 1:40. I thought you always had fear that something bad was going to happen. And that was part of it, right, Tim? You wanted to see what Shane Beamer was going to do in that scenario. South Carolina gets a sack or two. They call timeout with 1:47, I think, to go. They force a punt. Then the punt was shanked, or maybe that was another one that was blocked. They get the ball, and they're able to go down and score a touchdown, I think, with about 40 seconds to go to make it 29-0 at halftime and really just kind of finish off the game. So it was little things like that you like seeing just from a standpoint of Shane Beamer doing things on the sidelines.
Mike, can you guys explain what happened in the last 2 minutes of the first half? Are you not supposed to run out the clock for fear that something bad might happen? To me, that's what Saturday night was. It exercised a bunch of that Muschamp mess that we have been talking about in the last several months. I know some people have been frustrated with us doing that, but I think it's all part of the process, man. It's all part of kind of getting closure and moving on from one coach to the next coach. To me, this game did that in a lot of ways because clearly there's a new identity for this team. And we saw it on Saturday night. We saw, I mean, maybe this is what you kind of expected in the Muschamp era with defense and special teams. You didn't get it. I'm not trying to tell you that it's going to happen game in and game out for the next couple of decades with Shane Beamer leading the way, and I'm convinced of that after one win against Eastern Illinois, who like you said, Bill, one of the worst opponents we've seen come to Williams-Brice in a long time. I did find I should give my dad credit for it. I think he found the one Eastern Illinois fan that was there in the game. if anybody could find the one fan, it would be my dad. He had the Eastern Illinois shirt on the front, and then on the back it said Sean Payton, Tony Romo, Jimmy Garoppolo, and then Otto Coons. And it was interesting that Coons is the starting quarterback in week 1 who didn't even play in this game because of a sore shoulder. So, I mean, you take into account that they didn't even have their number 1 quarterback in this game as well. There's more than a grain of salt to be taken in this game in a lot of ways. But that's why I think I just go automatically to, all right, exercise all the Muschamp stuff. It's gone now. There was a guy smiling on the sidelines and enjoyed. I saw him there in the television broadcast. It was, I think, in the fourth quarter, might have been third quarter, but you can see that Shane Beamer caught somebody's eye in the crowd and like pointed to him and smiled. And I was like, oh, how refreshing is that? When would you have ever seen the previous several coaches even think to do that at that point on the sideline? It was a different game. It was a celebration of Gamecock football. How much we can project for the 2021 season, I don't think there's much. But you can enjoy a win and enjoy kind of turning the page in a new chapter, I feel like. Patrick, what do you get out of the Eastern Illinois 46-0 win from Saturday night?
I've been so conflicted. It's like the devil and angel on either shoulder, where on one hand, I want to tell all the people that are so excited, can you stop? This is one of the worst teams that will ever be in Williams-Brice Stadium. That includes high school state championships. Like, they were terrible. And on the other side, I'm like, well, I did tell myself I want to start enjoying wins more and not just keep moving on. And especially when we pick games, it's like, yeah, they're probably only going to win 4, 5, maybe 6 if we're lucky. Like, let's enjoy the wins, because there's going to be a lot of losses coming down the pipeline later on this year. Just because you whooped Eastern Illinois doesn't mean you're going to the college football playoff this year. So I'm trying to enjoy the wins more and more, because there's not especially the last couple of years, there haven't been too many victory Mondays. And especially, I mean, I think we maybe forget when you just start looking at the schedule, how long and how many twists and turns the season really has. Like, I always forget that. But between now and November 27th, when you play Clemson, like, a lot is going to happen. And when you look at the season, where I think I said they're going to be 5-2 and then lose the last 5, like, the roller coaster will continue to roll. So I'm just trying to focus on being in the moment and being happy. But it's hard, because you watch that game and you're like, these guys are terrible.
Well,
Eastern Illinois is so bad.
Yeah, if I'll say this, if South Carolina had been a favorite this week against East Carolina, maybe you enjoy it a little bit more. Maybe you're sitting here this morning, and you're like, all right, I'm going to do. But to see last night the line open where East Carolina is the favorite, and you go, huh, that's shocking. That's new.
To me, Bill, I think that's reason to enjoy it that much more, knowing how Vegas sees this team. But we knew how Vegas saw this team before the East Carolina line popped up, right? With a 3.5 season total wins. So I guess I wasn't completely shocked, but I was surprised about the opening line of East Carolina being the favorite.
You don't think it has anything to do with the quarterback not being named or being named, do you?
No.
Because that's another thing about this morning, where I'm like, everyone says, Zeb Nolan, incredible. It's like, dude, he was like he was like a 60 passer rating. His average depth of target was like 5 yards. I mean, he really didn't do anything. Like, he didn't walk out there. You don't walk out of that game saying, oh, we got our guy if Doty's actually more hurt than we thought.
I don't know. I still feel like I don't know exactly what Marcus Satterfield is doing with the offense. I was trying to go back and let me see if I
Which could be good and bad if they really just open it up the next 2 weeks and you say, oh yeah, they were holding everything back against Eastern Illinois, or we can be 8 weeks from now, South Carolina's 2-6, and we say, oh, turns out he actually really didn't have much of a plan, and Eastern Illinois was everything we had.
Yeah, I guess to go back as I see here and kind of scroll, I think it was Tuesday, I believe Monday, Tuesday, when they announced Zeb Nolan as the quarterback. I think it was Tuesday right before, and I put out the tweet like, all right, what's your prediction? Let me see
Stat
here.
line you're talking about?
Yeah, I was off on the touchdowns. Granted, not a lot of long touchdowns. But I said 14 of 19 for 128 yards. I had one more completion, 3 less passes. 13 to 22 is what he was for, what'd you say, Tim, 128 yards? Is that right?
Yeah, look at it. Double check real quick. It's right in front of me
four,
here. 121.
touchdowns.
121.
So It wasn't a ridiculous guess there at whatever they had. I think I'm kind of going back. Somebody had him 9 of 13 for 120 yards. Another guy had 12 of 17 for 145. I don't think people had huge expectations for them. Again, total. How many passes were thrown total? Was it 30? Is it right at 30? I think Jason Brown was 7 of 8.
27. He was 4 of 5.
4 or 5 and got the year through one. So, yeah, I mean, what we end up with there? 47 rushes and 27 passes.
Yep.
So 66, quick math, 74 plays. Am I right on that? Yep, 74 plays. So, yeah, I guess they did offensively in terms of game plan. They did kind of what I expected. What I don't know, what I'm interested to see is the downfield passing game. I think Marcus Satterfield described it is passing plays 18 yards or more considered the explosive plays. It felt like there was the one pass to Jalen Brooks, and after that, there wasn't a great attempt to push the ball vertically on a defense that was really crashing downhill throughout the game. We'll see if that changes this week, because that's going to be the strategy for every defense that plays South Carolina is, man, just put 11 guys within 9 yards and make them get over the top on you. Show that Josh Vann or Jalen Brooks can outrun a defensive back and that Nolan or Doty can hit the pass down the field.
He had 19 yards, the longest pass play that the Gamecocks completed against Eastern Illinois. Hilarious to me on the Cool Care Heating and Air text line. Text during the same minute, 3 minutes ago, Mark criticizing, as usual, me for being too positive somehow. He said, enjoy it while it lasts. Kathy, okay for you to interject reality, but please let the fans enjoy Saturday. It was fun for the first time in a long time. That's what we're saying, Kathy. That was kind of my main take. Absolutely enjoy it, especially on a holiday Monday, Labor Day. Glad you're a part of the program. We kick off the second half of the show next. We'll do it with more reaction from Shane Beamer about the 46-0 win for the Gamecocks. Also, overall winners and losers in week number 1 for college football here on the early game on 107.5 The Game.
107.5 The Game is omnipresent and free of charge. Free of charge. In your car. Free of charge. Online. Free of charge.
Off to a good start. Maybe you're feeling like it's time to turn the page and get things going in a new direction. I recommend you get Zero Res Carpet and Air Duct Cleaning out to your house like I've had them out to my house a couple of times. They've done a great job cleaning my carpets, cleaned my area rug, also the tiles in the kitchen and the bathroom. And Zero Res does it differently than anybody else. They have a patented ZR water, the ZR for Zero Res there. They crank the pH up in the water. You can go to ZeroResColumbia.com to find out all the details. What you really need to know, what I needed to know, is that there are no harsh chemicals involved in the process. No worries about my 3 boys roll around the carpets like they always are. That was important to me and my family. Also, no leftover soapy residue. My carpets have stayed cleaner longer, and yours can as well. 803-262-4020 is the number for Zero Res. 3 rooms of carpet cleaned, only $119 right now. When you mention me, Tim Hill, you get a free hallway as well. That's 3 rooms, $119 plus a free hallway when you mention me, Tim Hill. ZeroResColumbia.com. Book online right now or give them a call at 803-262-4020. That's Zero Res. Spell it backwards or forwards. It's the right way to clean.
There. From the Shepherd's Glass Traffic Center, Shepherd's Glass, a true reflection of quality. ShepherdsGlass.com.
Look at these slackers. All those creeping in there.
I just saw it go across the bottom on ESPN. Did you see what Patrick Cantley's career earnings on the PGA Tour was prior to yesterday?
I did. 14.6, is that right?
Yeah, 14.6 and won $15 million yesterday.
I think that 14.6 might have been coming into this year, wasn't it?
It just said career earnings on the PGA career, and then obviously won $15 million yesterday.
So I think he won 4 times this year, which is the most in like 5 years. 4 or 5 years anyway. Yeah, I watched a bunch of it yesterday. Didn't watch the very end though. Did you watch? You watched most of it?
I actually watched the very end where I think it was 17. Rahm had the putt for, was it a putt or chip? I forget. He had a short. It wasn't easy, but I think it was a putt or chip for eagle just off the green. And Cantley was putting for bogey, and basically it would have been a 2-shot swing to tie him up.
Right.
And that's exactly what happened. Was then then they went to 18, and Cantley, Rahm missed a birdie putt, and Cantley made par.
Lesser, I'd hold off on that. I think they did against Charleston Southern, which is about the best comparison we can give right now. And in year number 1, I thought that defense looked much improved back in the day. But I'm with you on this part for sure. I'm guessing you're talking about the Jordan Birch one, huh? I thought the first one was pretty incredible because, man, you go 3 and out against Eastern Illinois to open a new era. It had all the makings of a deflating start to that game, and then boom, you just got it right back.
Yeah, I'm with you on that.
Because the offense, that couldn't have been a much worse start unless you turn it over.
Yeah.
And then the transition that Birch made from defense to offense was so ridiculous. I mean, it was like he had planned on making that interception and knew exactly what he wanted to do with it as soon as he got it.
Yeah, that was the thing that impressed me is, again, it was, I don't care who the opponent was there. That was a very athletic play.
No doubt. You can tell he played wide receiver in high school, can't you?
And running back.
Right. Played wherever he wanted to, basically.
You have any audio that you want here?
Yes, ma'am. Whatever you want to play there from Beamer that we haven't, maybe. How about the penalties one?
Yep.
Penalties out there, just some dumb stuff that will get you beat if we don't clean it up and get it fixed. I mean, we get Jaheim pops a long run and on a belly play right up the middle, and we get a holding penalty on the perimeter, which is unbelievable. Get an interception. We got a defensive back that lines up all sides. I mean, we put a big point of emphasis on playing smart football and not beating ourselves. We got to do a better job of that. Had some dumb penalties, the late hit on the punt, and then the blindside block on the punt return. We got to be better about that. That's going to get us beat. But we'll worry about all that tomorrow. We're going to enjoy the hell out of this win tonight and let our players have a great time. We'll come correct, and we know we got a big challenge next week in Greenville, and can't wait to get busy on that.
Shane Beamer, after the 46-0 win in his career opener as a head coach, I think right there, guys, you hear the balance that Shane Beamer brings to the job. I feel like that first part would have been Steve Spurrier's take, that he had earned being a national championship coach, 6-time SEC champ, and he might have even focused a lot more on that than kind of like Brian Kelly did last night, talking about the old line from John McKay about he's in favor of his team being executed and just didn't land after they had just won in overtime against Florida State. But at Notre Dame, he understands the expectation is to challenge for a national championship, or it's been a bit of a failure of a season. South Carolina's expectation this year is to completely dominate Eastern Illinois, one of the worst teams in FCS football. And you heard the disappointment in some mistakes there from Shane Beamer, but then he quickly brought it back around and understood how important it was to have success for this program, I think, and for his players who have not had a bunch of success in the last couple of years, and to celebrate that and focus on that as well. And to me, that's what you want from a head coach, Bill. You got to have the balance. You got to have the attention to detail and make sure the mistakes don't happen and the whole thing. And especially now where the Gamecock football program is, you got to show some enthusiasm and energy and enjoyment. And that's what I saw on Saturday night from Shane Beamer and this team. I think it did permeate over to the team to a certain degree. The question is, all right, how much how much credit do you give these players and coaches against Eastern Illinois? And then how much do you say, well, that was just a bad team and you can't give too much credit there? You got to figure out what this team's going to be the rest of the way.
I mean, I think as Patrick said, you try to enjoy it. There's only been 6 times over the last 24 months to enjoy one of these. So you definitely soak it in. You as a fan, you don't have to go play East Carolina this week. You don't have to get back to business today. You can enjoy a Labor Day, a day off, or if you're having to work, you can kind of strut around the office a little bit and wear your South Carolina shirt or polo and be proud and not have to worry about now game planning for East Carolina. It's the coach and the team's job to get ready. But it was fun to watch. Again, you know, as Lester is saying on the live stream, it was fun to watch Jordan Birch get an interception and look like the 5-star prospect he was. It was fun to watch Marshawn Lloyd in his first actual action. Zaquandre White is a little spastic, I think. That dive, was it a dive or a jump? Or I don't know what the touchdown catch reception was. I guess he thought maybe the guy was going to go low and he thought he was going to jump over him. Jaheim Bell is wildly interesting, right? Like, I'm interested to see Jaheim Bell continue to develop as a football player because you see the incredible, the really incredible catch. Again, go back and watch it. The touchdown catch he had to make it 14 and then 15-0, but the catch he had jumping up and snatching it out of there, and then the belly play we're talking about where Nick Muse has the awful holding call, but Bell pops one up the middle and rumbles about 55 yards for a touchdown. So all kind of interesting stuff, fun to watch, but we'll turn our attention here later in the week to East Carolina and a game that'll tell us a lot more about the direction of this program and what exactly South Carolina could be this year.
Well, speaking of directions of programs, UCLA, I think I would put as my number one winner in college football this week with the win over LSU and Chip Kelly getting to 2-0, and the struggles that he's had the last couple of years with that program clearly seems to have it going in a different direction. I'd put Georgia second, even though their offense struggled, just to get the win against a good Clemson team, especially a good Clemson defense, and to render that offense to 2 rushing yards. Incredible. Virginia Tech's win against number 10 North Carolina at home to start the season. Massive. One of the winners in college football. And then I go with the Charlotte upset against Duke just to get a Power 5 win. And Will Healy be on College Game Day in Charlotte on Saturday morning along with Matt Rule and improving his profile for sure. And I think his name moved up on a bunch of lists for a bigger head coaching job. And then you got Presbyterian leading off college football final late Saturday night. So a lot of teams with certainly ties to our area. You got Kevin Kelly taking over that program with 10 touchdown passes by their starting quarterback. I think they threw 12 as a team, put up 84 points in their season opening win. A lot of winners there. On the other side, Bill, if you're a Gamecock fan, you can say, hey, at least you're not some of these other programs like LSU in the SEC, like Vandy in the SEC, who got thumped 23-3 by East Tennessee State. And again, I think the fair comparison to Shane Beamer in year number 1 is to the programs that also have a new head coach like Tennessee, like Vandy. One other in the SEC that off the top of my head I don't have. You guys help me out with that one. The other new coach in the SEC this year is
Brian Harsin.
Brian Harsin in Auburn, who looked pretty good in their opener as well. Other losers in college football, all out of the ACC with Clemson, North Carolina, Duke, and Georgia Tech. Georgia Tech losing to Northern Illinois. It was almost Iowa State losing to Northern Iowa as well. They survived, and now they're going to host College Game Day coming up this week with that game against Iowa. So the thin line between winners and losers in college football in week number 1 for sure.
Yeah, my winners. I actually think the biggest winner of the weekend was Patrick's guy, the guy he referred to as a bum on Friday. Sean Clifford and Penn State. Don't forget about them. They pick up.
Well, he was terrible.
Huh?
He was terrible.
He was 18 of 33 for 247 yards and a touchdown.
Yeah, he was. Did you watch the game?
That's terrible.
He couldn't. Yes, he was horrendous.
Good Lord, I'd hate to know what like.
That was one of the worst college football games I've ever watched in my life. It was 0-0 at halftime, right?
No.
Yeah, that's right. It was 0-0
was.
at half. Yep.
Yes, it was pathetic. Neither of the offenses could do a thing. It was horrible. It was a horrible football game.
I
wouldn't call anybody a winner from that game. That was a.
If that was horrendous, then what did you call Zeb Nolan's performance?
I didn't call it good. I said it was easy.
Okay. All right.
Dude, Sean Clifford was bad. He was so inaccurate. He was missing guys from on 5-yard out route, 10 yards over their head. He was bad. He can't throw the football.
18 of 33, 247 yards.
That's almost 50%. That's terrible. Guys are running wide open, and he's throwing it 10 yards over their heads.
Okay. All right. Wild take, but
when we
it's
come
not
back,
a wild take.
How about
I watched
this?
that whole game. He's horrible.
How about this, Bill? We will force Patrick to give us some winners in college football.
Well, yeah,
I'll tell you. One guy said, I'll tell you, Bo Nix was not a bum. Sean Clifford was a bum. Both those guys I said are bums. I was wrong about one of them. I was spot on about Sean Clifford, though. He can't throw.
And then honestly, the big loser to me, there is a significant loser from the weekend, not just LSU. You got to throw Washington in as a massive loser, right?
No doubt.
Losing to Montana, loses to Montana 13-7. Washington's traveling to Michigan this coming weekend for a 8 p.m. ABC game. So we'll get into a few more winners and losers, kind of look around the nation because it was an interesting weekend for college football. By the way, all I'm saying on the other thing is, and I said this on the little pregame show at about 12:25 on Saturday, you probably thought college football was going to be very topsy-turvy. 12:25, about 25 minutes into college football season, I think it was Tulane was up 7-0. Louisiana Monroe was up 7-0 on Kentucky. And I believe Western Michigan was up 7 or was tied with Michigan 7-7. Everything worked its way out. Tulane, obviously, with the big comeback and opportunity to win that game. But we'll get a little bit more into those winners and losers because I do think it was an interesting weekend across college football.
College football fans, the big winners, especially last night with overtime and Notre Dame and Florida State, we'll continue to discuss here. It's the early game on 107.5 The Game.
Dan Patrick, weekdays 9 until noon.
Wrapping up Labor Day weekend, that kind of starts to mean we're transitioning into the true fall and then winter. And just because we're going into fall and winter doesn't mean you stop caring about your pool. It's going to be spring before you know it, and you don't want to let the off season mess up your pool where you're having to pay extra to get it fixed in the spring. Go ahead and keep having it maintained by Corley Pool Solutions. They can do it for a flat rate pricing, including all the chemicals. So that means even in the off season, Tracy Corley and his team will make sure your pool is operating at its best so that when it gets springtime again, you're ready to get out there and use it. You don't want to stop. 803-445-8109. Give them a phone call today. Get them out there. Let them inspect your pool. Look at it. Know what you need to do to keep your pool nice and clean, even during the wintertime. Because, again, it can get really expensive if you take a few months off, you let it get dirty, and then you got to get Tracy and his team out there in the spring to completely get it fixed again. Don't do that. 803-445-8109. Corley Pool Solutions. Flat rate pricing, including all the chemicals. They will offer pool maintenance to you. They'll make sure the chemicals are right. They'll do everything you need them to do to keep that pool running all year long. 803-445-8109. That's Corley Pool Solutions.
brand spanking chicken club brisket fried fish and brand new Lowe's Foods.
Ken, do you see Ed's note there?
Yeah. Number one, maybe we could tell people where to look for stuff. Didn't see that tutorial. And number two, I'm still waiting for it to, show up. I clicked on it, but it's saying it's searching for the server.
Gotcha.
Patience is running really thin.
Sound like Bill with Patrick's take there on Sean Clifford.
There you go.
Yeah. Good grief.
You're on mute.
Oh. So yeah, it sounds like somebody didn't watch the game because I was sitting there on my cousin's couch watching that game for an hour and a half, and we were just with our jaws on the floor at some of the throws that he was missing.
Well, I watched the first. You got to remember, I left.
If you watch the first half, that's even worse.
No, I didn't get to watch. I could only watch like the first 40 minutes because then I left the house at 12:40 to get down to the parking. To get down to doing the game with Heath, and then that's where I needed you out there because the big screen that they had over there had Western Michigan, I believe.
Can't have that.
And so of course I didn't have time to go change it, but yeah, Western Michigan was on the big screen. So you are right. I didn't get a chance to watch. I saw the first like 40 minutes, the beginning of it, and then left the house, got down to where I was parking. And then by the time I walked over, so I watched the first part. I thought he looked okay in the highlights I saw and the little bit that I got to see, but you're right. That's why I wasn't sure on the halftime score because I feel like something happened early and I thought they scored, but I guess I was wrong. I feel like when I left, Penn State was up, but maybe I'm crazy.
Yeah, I mean, two of his throws came on half of his yards came on two throws. One of them, the guy was the only person within 20 yards.
Is that the one he underthrew on the deep ball that should have been a touchdown?
Yeah.
I did see
so
that.
If you take out two throws where no one
We're
was
about to
covering
head
the guys,
back in. Not sure when because the clock doesn't work.
16-31.
There we go. We're taking the extra minute here. All right, guys, we're up.
Boy, it sounded like Patrick could have used a
hot
take hotline there for his hot take on Sean Clifford. Response to Bill 978-6654 is the number you can always call the hot take hotline, sponsored by Twin Peaks for the men who never settled. Go see them down at the Vista. What a weekend of college football. That's what I'm taking away from this weekend. Mike hitting us up with the Cool Care Heating and Air text line saying the Gamecocks are 1-0 and Clemson is 0-1. We're undefeated. They are totally defeated. No matter how or why, it's fun to celebrate. From Mike this morning. I think that's a lot of Gamecock fans take as you continue to celebrate a holiday weekend. And we encourage that, correct? Everyone, is everybody on board with encouraging that? Patrick, you in on that?
No, I'm going to be doing that in an hour. Yes, celebrate Labor Day.
That's right. A lot of
Bill's in on that.
Go get brunch. Go get brunch.
I like the tweet that I saw yesterday. South
15.
Carolina has what was it? Clemson has more losses than South Carolina has given up points this year.
Ooh, strong. Hour 3 coming up here on the early.
South Carolina.
It's been quiet upstairs in my house. Everybody's still sleeping.
Make him nervous.
Not me. I'm good with that. On a holiday morning.
Yeah, that's true.
Right.
Good point.
especially with a 10:30 bedtime for my kids on Saturday night.
Woo.
That's big for them.
Yeah.
10:30 bedtime.
Yep, that was as good as I could do going in the first half. Any festivities for anybody else out there on the live stream this weekend? Well, we had hamburgers and hot dogs, and I was at the in-laws. They usually do the Italian stuff, so some sausage and peppers as well. Good stuff today. Good little flag football between the newly 9-year-old cousin and my 8-year-old. The 6-year-old played a little bit, but he was pretty worn out, I think. He was more into marbles yesterday.
Not a bad thing there.
Nope, no complaints. So we got one in West Virginia today. That was, I think, Elton weighing in a little bit earlier on. Yep, from Norfolk, West Virginia. Anybody else anywhere exotic this morning or doing anything especially fun?
I mean, we're here. Isn't that exciting?
Troy,
Grab some headphones.
pretty gracious, I would say, for a Clemson fan to start this morning. Time for a walk, Patrick. Nice job.
Yeah, I'm gonna take a pee real quick. Let's go. Although my Ethernet cords are blocking all the paths.
Patrick's joining us from Nashville, where it's not quite 7 a.m. Whoa. Jim just hit us up, said nothing like being in Turks and Caicos and being able to listen to the early game after a Gamecock win. Good luck beating that. Turks and Caicos. I mean, that Lake Murray sunrise is looking excellent, but I'm guessing Jim might be able to beat that screensaver. That is the best name for a getaway, too, by the way, Turks and Caicos. Never been. Heard good things. But I think if it had a different name, I don't think as many people would go there. It just sounds awesome. Bill, ever been to Turks and Caicos?
I haven't. It's on the list. Or when I start traveling back out of the country.
That's where Jim's listening to us from this morning.
Oh, wow. Okay. Committed.
I mean, don't sell yourself short. You're eating some breakfast on a Labor Day morning and working in the show.
Donuts.
Of course. Should have known.
We were too tired to cook breakfast yesterday morning, so we had donuts.
Oh, you're going two in a row, are you?
Do what?
2 mornings in a row for donut breakfast?
Well, we had leftovers. We had leftovers. We went the assorted kind, so now we're eating the ones, the second tier donuts.
Gotcha.
Like this was a plain one, I think just glazed.
What were the most popular ones? Chocolate glazed, I assume.
The ones with the cream filling, chocolate ones with cream filling. That's the go-to. It's been a while since I've done the donuts.
Same here. Yeah, that's a good comparison. Excuse me. Don't you think? Bill, I was going to say To me, maybe it's a combination of him and Clowney. Like, I think he does move more like Melvin, but not quite. I think he's got some Clowney in him too there, what we saw. That Jordan Burch touchdown return. It's just how natural, like he runs more like a receiver. I always thought Clowney did that, and Ingram ran more like a running back.
Well, Ingram was a running back at Richmond.
Right. And then tried to play a little fullback there at one point, right?
I think the thing with because you got to remember he got moved around a good bit early on in his career before he settled in at defensive because he was a linebacker too.
Right. Oh, and Clowney played linebacker. Clowney played running back at South Point a bunch. I saw him.
Did he?
Yep. He ran one right at my camera one time when I was being a camera nerd there for Wolo, and I was scared. I was afraid. Like he gave the celebration like flex, just like 5 feet from me. I was like, oh, this camera could have bit the dust real quick.
You know, it's funny because, again, I've still got the vision when I went to see – I can't remember who it was I went to watch. It might have been – I can't remember who it was. It might have been Sindarius Thornwell, a young Sindarius Thornwell. Maybe a freshman. I'm trying to remember, but I saw Clowney play basketball. I might be thinking that might have been before Sindarius. But I saw Gilmore. Gilmore was a good basketball player. But I remember Clowney just looking so out of place on the basketball court and so almost unathletic. Like, and then you go back to the play where he hurdles the Georgia defensive lineman trying to give him a cut block and tackles Aaron Murray. So it's not that he wasn't athletic, but the visual image of him trying to play basketball always just like is I'm like, he was the most unathletic person I've ever seen, but it was just basketball just wasn't a natural sport to him like football was.
We do 9 here, Jen?
Yeah.
9 and then 14, please.
All right, 9 and 14.
Thank you.
Second and 2. Straight up the middle. Here's White. White breaks away at the 40, 30, 20. Looks back. Nobody going to get him. 5. Touchdown. Carolina. Touchdown to Jaquandre White. 63 yards out. He caught one tonight. Now he runs one in. Good blocking straight up the middle. That makes it 38-0 with 10:24 to go in the ball game.
Just really, really thankful and fortunate and grateful to be here. And it was really just just a fun night. You know, I was going to make sure certainly I did what I had to do as the head coach to lead the team and make decisions throughout the night. But I made sure that I was going to also enjoy the heck out of it as well. And I did.
Shane Beamer's first game as South Carolina head coach, as a head coach at all, 46-0. The shutout win for Carolina, off to a 1-0 start. A lot of Gamecock fans pointing out accurately, Clemson off to an 0-1 start after the 10-3 loss to Georgia. Welcome into the third hour of the early game here, the Labor Day edition. Glad you're spending part of your holiday with us. Special shout out to Jim, who hit us up on the Cool Care Heating and Air text line at 803-404-6100. Says he's enjoying the show from Turks and Caicos this morning. I think he's going to win the prize. Well done, Jim. Thanks for tuning us in. And I think, Bill, that's an example of dedication from Gamecock fans and how special it is to get a win, and maybe more appreciative Gamecock fans are of wins these days, and especially to start the Shane Beamer era out in this way. It was a celebration of Gamecock football on Saturday. I was there for the Gamecock walk. I saw him get off the bus. You could feel the energy. And then all the way through, that first possession for the Gamecocks on offense was a quick 3 and out. And I thought, oh, no, here we go again kind of thing in my head. And then it took one play to turn that around on defense. One play and an interception, and the Gamecocks were able to punch the touchdown in and roll from there. It wasn't perfect. No one's trying to tell you that it was a tremendously impressive win in the scope of college football, because we understand what Eastern Illinois is. But for Gamecock fans, and I would say I think it's fair to describe Gamecock fans as we sit here this morning, as long-suffering Gamecock fans, after 8 losses each of the last 2 years. It was cathartic, I think might be the best way to put it, Bill. Kind of moving past that Will Muschamp mess. Shane Beamer is here. You've now seen it on the field, and you can move forward in the 2021 season and with the Gamecock football program and the direction of it. It's a completely new way to go for Gamecock fans. And cathartic. It took me a couple hours to come up with that word, but that's what I'm going with from what I saw on Saturday night. What about you, Bill?
Yeah, I was just trying to think, things that stood out on Saturday night. And Zaquandre White stood out, certainly the way he runs. There are certain things about Marshawn Lloyd that stood out. I thought Josh Vann is something that you can take out of that. I mean, there are positives regardless of the opponent that I think, again, the fact that the defense basically did what they were supposed to do. They went out and they dominated. And again, we can say, it's Eastern Illinois, and you're not going to see a worse opponent come into Williams-Brice Stadium maybe in the next 10 years. But at least you walk out of that game with the defense saying, hey, that's what they're supposed to do, and they did it. Maybe you feel a little bit better about that. Let me ask you guys something that I find interesting, and I was talking to somebody about yesterday. We were just long-term future under Shane Beamer. Obviously, every player gets a COVID year from last year. You get a free year. What do you think is the realistic expectation for keeping Zaquandre White and Josh Vann for another year? Because part of this rebuild that Shane Beamer's going to have to do is maybe keeping certain players intact, keeping a roster, keeping the coaching staff intact for a year or two during the transition into really what Beamer wants to do. Those are two players that really kind of stood out to me on Saturday night, because you saw Josh Vann in particular made some tough catches, had the touchdown catch as well. But Josh Vann looked like a different wide receiver out there. And I don't think unless he just blows up and has a monster year, I don't know if he's a draftable prospect. He never redshirted. So he never redshirted, and he's not going to this year, but with COVID, he gets the free year last year. I guess he could stay for a fifth year. That would be kind of interesting, especially if he continues to develop. Zaquandre White, you look at South Carolina, they haven't landed a running back in this recruiting class, but if you kept Harris, you kept Lloyd, McDowell, and then if you throw White into the mix and you've got them all back, I know, again, I'm kind of looking very far down the tracks here to 2022, but you guys think that that's realistic? If you think about two players there to look like they could help you with the rebuild?
I think it's relatively realistic at this point, but man, that's so far off. It will depend on a numbers game as well with that recruiting class and the whole deal. And I never really know exactly how these things go towards the end of the career. Steve Spurrier's line was always, we think he could play somewhere a little bit more. So we encouraged him to kind of move on, basically kicked him out of the programs that don't come back towards the end of the career. Josh Vann just had 2 catches on Saturday. So to me, he hasn't proven that he has much improved compared to years past. Good to see a touchdown catch, no doubt. Zaquandre White looked like the guy that we saw in the spring game. But again, Eastern Illinois trying to keep this thing in context is going to be the challenge for me all week long. And Troy points out that he's very surprised that East Carolina is favored on Saturday. I am as well. But even if South Carolina was going to be favored in this game, it was only going to be by a few points. And that's just where Eastern Illinois is right now. I think it's where East Carolina and South Carolina are. And it's just a pretty close matchup going into this Saturday. So the Gamecocks have a chance to prove they are much improved, I think. What we saw this past Saturday doesn't necessarily do that for me. Does that make any sense to you, Patrick, about trying to evaluate this thing fairly? Because knowing what Eastern Illinois has been, what are they? They're 2-18 now, I think, in their last 20 games.
Well, yeah, because like when we talk about what flashed or who flashed, I mean, you can go down the roster. I think every player on South Carolina probably played pretty well. Every person on the field for South Carolina was better than the person lining up across from them when he's Eastern Illinois. They weren't in the same ballpark. It wasn't anything. And what we were just talking about with Zaquandre White, he had a monster game. He was probably the star of the game for Carolina, unless you want to say Zeb Nolan. But I mean, Kevin Harris didn't play. what kind of carries is Zaquandre White even going to get for the rest of the year? I mean, he could have games with no carries. He could have games with 8 or 9 carries. Like who even knows? So in terms of long term, like it would be up to him if he even wants to do that. But I mean, I do know Shane Beamer loves Zaquandre White because he brings him up unprompted pretty frequently. On my way driving up to Nashville, I listened to a PFF podcast where Shane Beamer got interviewed and brought Zaquandre White up very, very quickly, like one of the first guys he brought up. So clearly loves the kid. But just overall, there's nothing to take away. It was a bloodbath. Everybody on the field was better than everybody on the other side of the ball, and it just is what it is.
Were you surprised Zeb stayed in as long as he did? That they kept him in that long? And didn't give Brown more snaps?
I was slightly surprised, but I think once we saw Jason Brown get out there, you saw the fumble. To me, it seemed like the offense operated kind of at a different level. I know we had somebody hit us up a little bit earlier on that Cool Care Heating and Air text line saying you could clearly tell why the coaches ended up making that choice because Zeb Nolan seemed to have the offense running more efficiently. It ended up being close to the ideal scenario, I thought, from the quarterback position in that you got Jason Brown in there. You got him 4 out of 5. He did make the one mistake. That'll certainly stick with him. And he put out on social media, he said, my bad for the fumble. I'll make sure and get better from that. You also got Colton Gauthier, at least on the field. You got him a quick completion outside of getting the walk-on Connor Jordan sometime. Bill, I thought it was pretty best case scenario knowing your situation going into this week. Last night, it was Shane Beamer on his teleconference saying he's not going to announce the starting quarterback. Luke Doty did get out on the field in warm-ups and was dressed out and moved around, and I think gives Gamecock fans reason for optimism that he has a chance to play this weekend. But you had to get a guy in there that had 0 snaps, which was all the other quarterbacks except Luke Doty, in a Gamecock uniform. You had to get somebody some meaningful time. That turned out to be Zeb Nolan. You saw that he can manage a game and get the offense in the looks and the protections that the coaching staff wants. And to me, that was kind of goal number 1 for the Gamecock offense in game number 1, knowing what was ahead. What about you, Bill?
Yeah, I do think, I'm as you were saying that, and as Patrick was saying that, I'm just trying to think if there's anything that South Carolina didn't accomplish that we would have just said going into Saturday night, hey, let's get a look at this, or let's do that. And
the vertical passing game.
They didn't try it.
That's what I'm saying. Like they easily could have. Yeah, they could have had the mindset of this team's obviously not coming back. Let's just send them deep. Let's just see what we got. Start chucking it around because you're not fearful of losing, so you can make kind of irresponsible or careless sorts of attempts if you wanted to. Like you want Gauthier to have some opportunities to show off that arm talent, put him in earlier, and have him just chuck it deep. You could have done that, and you wouldn't have lost the game.
Yeah, I'm with you, and that's why I wonder, if there's some stuff held there. Again, you saw Marion Brown have 2 catches, so we saw him out there a little bit. Jalen Brooks has shown that he can get behind the defense. Now I've seen him do that a few times. We just haven't seen him come down with a long pass, so that's something that certainly you want to see him do from a confidence standpoint. But it will be interesting to see how things continue to develop offensively. I'll transition that to say maybe we do it the next segment, but getting more of a national perspective. Tim, you kind of went through your winners and losers from the weekend. I'd be interested to hear Patrick's. There were some teams that I also wanted to get into in terms of winners and losers from the opening weekend of college football. And certainly you've got one more game tonight. Mississippi, Lane Kiffin will not be coaching against Louisville. I think that game's in Atlanta at the Mercedes-Benz Stadium. So you got one more tonight, and then a 2-day break before the NFL gets going on Thursday. But all in all, I feel like South Carolina went out against, as Patrick pointed out, a very inferior opponent, one that they should beat in that manner. I mean, I don't know what happened, by the way, Friday night. I have zero clue, but you guys saw that, the spread dropped from 41.5 or 40 down to 31.5. There was some Vegas.
Oh, wow. So, That's crazy. The spread for the Gamecocks did 10 points?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, I think a lot of people kind of freaked out. And I was like, well, they're still a 4-touchdown favorite here. But so yeah, they accomplished what they needed to. Now you move on to, can they get to 2-0? Can they go on the road and beat a team now they're not favored to beat? It'll be fun to talk about this week.
Danny says Jalen Brooks made a good sideline catch. Yeah, getting that foot in was incredible. I thought he was just completely begging at first when I saw it in live action, begging the sideline official, and I didn't think it was close. And he made a tremendously athletic catch there that was overturned on replay. Steven says the offensive line for the Gamecocks wasn't great. Lots of room for improvement. Yeah, it was 0 sacks, though. But I agree. When you're talking about just moving the lines of scrimmage, the defensive line, much more impressive from what I saw consistently than the offensive line for the Gamecocks, especially knowing the step up in competition that will happen this week. And then for sure, going to be a huge step up the following week with Georgia looming in Athens in week number 3 for Carolina. We'll continue to discuss various aspects and let you hear a little bit more from Shane Beamer and Zeb Nolan as we roll on this morning. 803-404-6100 if you would like to weigh in. Winners and losers across college football when we come back. It's the early game on 107.5 The Game.
Live, local. That's how we do sports. 107.5 The Game. Feel free to call and
and all the great deals going on at Love Chevrolet. Again, I-26 and Harbison between Lowe's and Frankie's Fun Park. Why, you ask? Well, number one, as I've always pointed out, there's an incredible sales staff over there that will answer all your questions, make sure that you feel comfortable with your purchase. I go out there, and whether it's Michael Corley, whether it's Josh Putnell, the guy that I go to, so many of them out there that are ready to help you make that great purchase. And you're always going to show up with questions. So it's great to have knowledgeable salespeople who can help explain why you're getting the vehicle you're getting and how it will help you on a day in, day out basis. Number two, the reason you go there, you get a great deal. The $1,000 low price guarantee means you can shop other dealerships, take the deal back to the folks at Love Chevrolet, and they'll top it, or they'll write you a check for $1,000. Hasn't happened. And here's the best part. There is a computer chip shortage. I know you've probably heard about it, read about it, and it's reduced the number of vehicles available for sale. But at Love Chevrolet, they're not adding extra add-ons to the price of their new cars to take advantage of their customers during this time of high demand. So you're getting the same great low price that you've always gotten. Just because there's high demand doesn't mean Love Chevrolet is adding on extra prices, extra add-ons that cause the car or truck to be at a higher price. Go visit them for yourself. Find out what I'm talking about. I-26 in Harbison between Lowe's and Frankie's Fun Park. They've been open for over 60 years. So you know you're getting great quality, great sales, and the best deal possible when you visit Love Chevrolet. Again, I-26 in Harbison between Lowe's and Frankie's Fun Park, or on the web, lovechevy.com. Get out to Love Chevrolet and find new roads.
So how's the Nashville setup compared to the home setup in Maryland?
It's okay. I'm just in the middle of a room. I don't have my own little, like, there's sliding doors here. I can't read. There's sliding doors. That's the best we can do. I'm on a tiny little picnic table because this is a new apartment, so there hasn't been a couch delivered yet.
Right.
So I'm in like a wicker chair.
Oof.
Nice.
It's not good for the back.
Go outside, but it's the only furniture in this house.
Yeah, so I was afraid of. Oh, let me turn that. Just go turn the kitchen light off.
So Justin taking issue with there's nothing to take away from the game, sir. I would take issue with Justin saying you're a proven guy to put in.
Yeah.
Nolan did what he was supposed to do, but I wouldn't call him a proven guy. I think maybe he's proven that he won't lose you the game, if you want to go that way. I'd say he looked very similar to Colin Hill last year. But I think you're going to need a much better performance from a quarterback if you're going to beat East Carolina. And then, obviously, if you're going to win SEC games outside of Vanderbilt, which should not be included in the SEC when you get 23-3 by East Tennessee State.
No kidding. All right, we're heading back in.
Let's do the first touchdown pass there, the Nick Muse one, and then Noland, and then Beamer on Noland, if that makes sense, Jim.
Yep. All right, all three back to back.
You got it.
Nolan wants to throw it. Got a man underneath right at the goal line. Can he get in? Call it. Touchdown, Carolina. Touchdown, Nick Muse. The second of his career. It's from 4 yards out. And the graduate assistant, Zeb Nolan, gets his first touchdown at Carolina.
It really didn't hit me till we got off the bus and went, got to walk and got to be with the fans and give high fives and all that. It just hits a little different in the SEC. I mean, I felt like that walk was forever, and it was in slow motion just because it's all surreal to me, and I never thought I was going to get to do it again. And just being on the player side of it, going out there and going through my pregame warm-up, and just little things like that make the win just a little bit better.
Thought overall Zeb did a nice job of running the offense and made some throws and ad-libbed on some big plays there in the first half, being able to get the second reads and making things right when it was right, what was going on around him. So I thought he did he did a nice job.
Shane Beamer's evaluation that you heard from the quarterback's mouth himself right before that of Zeb Noland in the 46-0 win. The Gamecocks, you heard the call from Todd Ellis on Learfield Sports on the first points of the ball game in the first quarter. 46-0, the final score for Carolina in a dominating game. The question, I think, now becomes how impressed were you with it moving forward? I was more impressed on the defensive side of the ball, the special teams aspect of blocking a couple of punts and greatly affecting the first one as well. I think that's what I come out with most, especially knowing that Clayton White was making his debut here. I guess trying to keep it in context as well, knowing that Eastern Illinois didn't even have their starting quarterback in the ball game, maybe takes away from that a little bit, but just seeing the consistent pressure and the communication seemed on point. No coverage breakdowns. Maybe I had lesser expectations for the Gamecock defense, but to get a shutout, the first one for Carolina since 2008 against NC State, and just the third one this century. I think, Bill, you brought up a little bit earlier. That's what I'm going to take away from this thing. Now, I think you get more of a true evaluation of what this team's going to be in 2021 this week against an East Carolina team that clearly isn't one of the best teams in college football, one of the top teams, but they are nowhere near what Eastern Illinois is on the other end of the spectrum. And that's going to be the really interesting part to me of what happens this Saturday. You're going to get more adversity. You're going to get better competition. How does the Gamecock team respond after doing exactly what they needed to do in week number 1, which turned out to be just a celebration of Gamecock football a couple of nights ago, Bill?
Yeah, I mean, again, I'm with you. I think there's a fine line here in taking away something that maybe wasn't there, but also enjoying what you saw on Saturday night and feeling a little bit better maybe about this football team and what the year it could be. I'm excited to see them this weekend. On the road, you're going to get a really good environment. I do think it helps that you get East Carolina at noon. Look, I'm not saying that East Carolina is known for this incredible home field advantage, but that place should be sold out, 51,000. Those fans should be really fired up. So it's not going to be an easy environment. It's not like you end up walking into Vanderbilt and that stadium. You're going to get a more difficult environment, but at the same time, You get them at noon. And how does this team look? And what happens with the quarterback situation? There are positives you can take. I do, again, the fact that South Carolina's defense did what they were supposed to do, I think you really like that. It's one thing if they'd have, say, given up 90 or 100 rushing yards. And you say, okay, well, that's not bad, but it's Eastern Illinois. If they'd have given up a lot of passing yards, 109 total yards is, you like that. I don't care who the opponent is. Eastern Illinois never really threatening to score. You like that. I mean, it wasn't this was a game where I don't know what the furthest Eastern Illinois did. They get inside the 30? Do we know? I feel like they were close one time. There was like back-to-back sacks. They might have gotten to the 32 or the 33. And that might have been the closest they feel like that was the closest they got. And then South Carolina backed them up. And so just the fact that, again, it's not like Eastern Illinois drove inside the 20 and had to go for it on fourth down to try and finish off a drive. You do like that. I mean, that's a positive. And so there is something you can take away from that. We'll see what happens with the offense as we move forward, too.
Numbers-wise, a similar amount of plays, passing and rushing for Eastern Illinois, 22 runs, 21 passes, or actually 22 passes that I'm seeing now. For some reason, only 21 targets. So they had 22 of each, 78 yards passing, just 31 net rushing yards. So a really impressive effort from the Gamecock defense, especially. You throw in a pick six from Jordan Birch. There was another pick six from Jalen Foster that ended up getting called back just because a defensive back lined up off sides. Certainly not a perfect game in a lot of ways, but a lot to celebrate and a lot to be pleased with and take some optimism into week number 2. How much you want to do that, and then how much you want to nitpick what didn't go perfectly. That's kind of up to each individual fan for sure. As far as college football winners and losers, Bill, you got to choose one. Are you going Washington as your big loser, and you going Montana as your big winner? Where would you go if you had to choose just one? Let's choose one big winner of college football, one big loser of college football out of week 1.
Big winner, I think. Honestly, I'm gonna go a tie. The UCLA one, you certainly gotta say that Chip Kelly was looking for his first non-conference victory a week ago at UCLA, and he gets it, and then follows that up with a great win at home, in which they win by 11 over LSU. I will also put Virginia Tech up there. Virginia Tech under Justin Fuente looking very good and getting a top 10 victory over number 10 North Carolina on Friday night. Virginia Tech, Braxton Burmeister, I thought looked pretty good. I thought Virginia Tech, looked well coached. The loser, I'm gonna say that, Washington. I'm gonna go again a tie. Washington losing to Montana at home. A top 25 team losing to an FCS team, even if Montana's pretty good. That's not the look you want. 13-7 there, and then the other loser, North Carolina. A lot of expectations. Maybe you throw Sam Howell in there. Maybe I don't know if you'd say Sam Howell because that Heisman campaign is over, right? 3 interceptions on Friday night. North Carolina looks bad. The Mac Brown facial expression there at the end of the game.
That was rough to watch.
That's tough, yeah, exactly. So I know you're asking for one, but I'll give you 2 ties for both of them because I thought that those were 2 pretty significant developments, Washington and North Carolina, and again, maybe Sam Howell thrown in with North Carolina. And then, you got to say UCLA was a winner. I'm assuming polls will be out today. I would assume UCLA will be ranked.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not going to label LSU as a loser just yet, but
Ed Orgeron's a loser.
Well, I was going to say,
he lost his job. I'm almost prepared to say that he lost his job on Saturday.
Well,
he's not making it to next year.
Okay, interesting. So
because what LSU has to do now for him to keep his job is going to be beat Texas A&M, beat Auburn, beat Ole Miss, beat Florida. Like they're going to have to be a 9-win team for him to keep his job, and that's going to require some big wins. And they're just not. If you can't beat UCLA, that's going to be an issue. Your defense can't be that bad 2 years in a row.
Okay, so you've got LSU as your loser.
Yeah.
What about as your week 1 winner?
Well, actually, they're not my only loser, though. I mean, I would say that, like, the trendy contender picks, like UNC, obviously, people wanted to say be hipstery and be like, yeah, they could contend for the ACC. No, they can't. They're not even close to Clemson. Iowa State, they could contend. No, they're not even close. They beat Northern Iowa by 4 points. Brock Purdy was terrible. Breece Hall, who everyone thought was the best running back in the country, was terrible. Oklahoma this is the year Oklahoma could be a national championship team. I thought the same thing. They barely beat Tulane. They were lucky to get out of there. If that game was in New Orleans, they probably would have lost. Just a lot of people that we always want someone besides Alabama and Georgia to be the team this year, but Alabama goes out there, takes care of business, thumps Miami like we expected, and everyone else who we thought, oh, this could be the year. They're closing the gap. No, they're not. No one's close.
Real quick, do we put Miami as a loser in there just because it was such a resounding win for Alabama? Like you say, expected. I thought Miami would make it a little bit closer.
Right.
That ball game was over quick.
Yeah, and then 30-plus points. So I should have known that Patrick would give us plenty of losers. Patrick, one winner.
Also, Jeff Collins.
No, going to keep going.
That's true. That's another one, too, by
Georgia
the way.
Tech.
Yeah.
There's so much that happens, and there's only 30 minutes left in the show. We got to touch on everything. Georgia Tech losing to Northern Illinois. What are we doing here? Thought he was turning that program around.
Winners, sir. Do you have a winner in week number 1?
One winner, Bo Nix.
Oh, good grief.
He had more touchdowns than incompletions.
And did it against who?
Akron.
Yeah, 60 to 10.
You're good with that against Akron?
All right, no. I will say Iowa because Iowa looks like legit. Their defense is unreal. Michael Penix, three interceptions. Iowa, I think 34-6. I'll say Iowa's my one winner. LSU's my one loser.
Okay, notice how long Patrick can go with losers and then how short he went with winners there. He went 2 words on the winner's hot take. Bo Nix. That's it.
Well, UCLA, LSU, I was debating. That was a tough one. I mean, I guess there can be a winner and a loser because that is how the world works. But I don't know if UCLA is more of a winner or LSU more of a loser.
I
do
also
focus on the negative.
I will also throw a winner in. I know, again, we're only going for one. Give credit to Texas. That was a trendy upset pick. A lot of people thought Billy Napier in Louisiana could go into Austin and win that game. It never really was a game. 14-6 at halftime. Texas pulls away in the third quarter there and kind of cruises to a 38-18 victory. That's another one where, again, I only say that because it was a trendy, oh, here comes Louisiana. Look at what they did to Iowa State last year. Texas is on an upset alert. And not only does Texas win, they do it kind of convincingly to be able to win that football game.
To me,
if they had won that game, Billy Napier probably would have been on a bus to Baton Rouge today, and he would have been coaching LSU this week.
To me, the big loser is the ACC with those 4 teams going down. Clemson, Georgia Tech, Duke, and North Carolina. Florida State had a chance to kind of salvage it last night. I guess you can throw them in there now. That was just a gut-wrenching loss for Florida State, but maybe Mike Norvell can get Mackenzie Milton in the mix, and they can regain some respectability with that program. The winners this morning, Jim and Monty. Jim hit us up from Turks and Caicos earlier. Monty just hit us up on Twitter from St. Martin. Well done, gentlemen. Well done. You guys are doing Labor Day weekend right for sure. 803-404-6100 as the holiday extravaganza continues this morning. It's the early game. It's 107.5 The Game.
Gamecock basketball head coach Frank Martin. Listening to 107.5 The Game. WNKT FM, Eastover, Columbia.
College football now. We've got a weekend in the books. We're counting down. We're moving through the months now. Before you know it, we'll be talking about the college football playoff. And at that point, weather's going to be different. It's going to be a little bit colder. So my question to you is, have you got your heating and air unit inspected? Back in the spring, I was talking about being ready for the summer. Now I'm flipping the script a little bit. Now you got to be ready for the winter. Don't let winter show up and you not have that heating and air unit inspected. I made a mistake last year. Got to be Christmas night, I believe, and I had not had my heating unit inspected. And what ended up happening? We had a very cold Christmas night. Got down into the low 60s, I think the high 50s in my house because the heating unit wasn't inspected. Don't be like me. Go ahead and get that thing checked out by AAA Heating and Air today. 803-677-1500. Billy, the technician, came out in the spring. You got my air conditioner looking great, ready to run for the summer. I'm going to do it again here in a few months and make sure the heating is ready to be working. You always want to stay one step ahead of the game, so now is the time to give AAA Heating and Air a call. 803-677-1500. Of course, they'll always work with you if you need a new heating and air unit. They'll offer a $1,500 rebate to buy back your old unit. They'll work with you on 0% financing, no money down on a new unit. And the best part, and this is important because they're taking care of you long-term, a 15-year parts and labor warranty to make sure if anything goes wrong, AAA Heating and Air is by your side to make sure it's fixed. Give them a call today, 803-677-1500. Roy and Dana Finley, a family-run company. They want you to be a part of the family, and they're going to make sure you feel like part of the family. Again, AAA Heating and Air. Give them a call today, 803-677-1500. Tell them you heard it right here on 107.5 The Game with Bill Gunner. All right. I think that does it for me this morning on that. I tell you what, the sun starts coming in. It's hard to see the screen. Obviously, it's hard to see me, but the sun is bright this morning.
We do have another break to hit.
We'll turn around because you can't see. The sun is so bright. You can't see the. You can't see the lake anyway. No point in doing that.
I didn't even get to finish my winners and losers.
So many
just doing losers for an hour and a half, man.
Talia's a winner. Talia is no longer Tua's brother. He's Talia.
Yep, Maryland pulled their usual big early season victory.
Also, another loser. What has happened to Stanford?
That's a good question.
I mean, David Shaw was an NFL candidate year in and year out. Stanford was like a model of consistency. They just got hammered by Kansas State. I think it was a 90-end kick for the Stanford mental clock.
That is a good question on Stanford.
Jen, let's do number 5 and number 15, please.
Richard has been just on one this morning.
Has been what?
So Richard's been on one this morning, 10 texts, and the last one was about the losers of the weekend as the entire staff of a high school program.
That's who you need to pick on.
Yeah, come on, Richard.
Oh, that's because his kid plays, right? He hit us up a while back saying, congratulations to my kid who caught a touchdown pass in high school. Now, going on sports talk radio, texting about his coaching staff. That's supportive parenting 101.
Gosh.
Interesting. Yeah, I watched the end of that thing on Friday night. Man, I need to go back through this Thursday night, Friday night, Saturday night, and Sunday night.
Yeah,
Fantastic.
Labor Day weekend's always great.
Yeah, but you can't always get these four nights, man. Great finishes 4 nights in a row.
Yeah, last night was crazy. Just look ahead to next year real quick. See if there's already some games lined up for opening weekend next year with big name teams. Let's see here next year, because South Carolina opens with, I think, Georgia State next year. Georgia State, did y'all see that? Got hammered.
They played a Power 5 team. Who was it?
So here's something interesting. Clemson is going to open next year with a conference game.
We're heading back in.
They've already got
Did you-
their
did
game
you get
scheduled.
what I
Their first
wanted to do,
non-conference
Jim?
game is Louisiana Tech.
The 5 and 15. Yep. Giving you guys a heads up.
Got him. They blocked the punt. 2 special teams plays already tonight, and this was going to be recovered
That's Beamer
around
ball.
the Panther 39-yard line. I saw Shaquandre White and a couple others in there as well. Right up the middle, Jaheim Bell just pushed the blockers right back into the punter. Strawn, the transfer from Georgia State, there as well.
Anytime you can block a punt, anytime you can score on defense, you're probably going to win the majority of the time you do that. So the more that we can do that, the better.
5.
If you want to call it Beamer Ball 2.0, then that was certainly a good start. We want to keep it going.
Win number 1 for Shane Beamer in his first game ever as a head coach. 46-0 the final score against Eastern Illinois. You heard Todd Ellis on the call there for Learfield Sports. Jordan Strawn, I believe, was the one who got credit for that block punt. Debo Williams got credit for another one. To see the first block punt since 2014, Bill, to see the first defensive shutout since 2008. I get it was against a bad team. No one's trying to convince anybody this morning that Eastern Illinois is a good team, but to see some firsts like that, to see a defensive performance where you give up 108 total yards, to see a former graduate assistant coach come in and start at quarterback and throw 4 touchdown passes, not make any major mistakes. A bunch of check marks for Gamecock football in this one, the largest one with a win. And then I think a lot of Gamecock fans, another one with a Clemson loss in a Labor Day weekend to start the Shane Beamer era. A bunch of things to be optimistic about this morning. And then maybe a little tempered yesterday by the old line that Vegas threw out, that East Carolina actually the favored team headed into week number 2 as the Gamecocks go to Greenville for this Saturday's noon game.
Yeah, we'll again. A lot of people can enjoy their Labor Day, maybe cook some burgers, grill some hot dogs, and you can. I don't know. I'm sure you can go on the ESPN app and rewatch the game there and get your final kicks, because I guess tomorrow you'll have a Talking Tuesday with Shane Beamer. We'll get to hear a little bit more from him as to how today's practice went and how I guess they're still practicing maybe in the morning. I believe I was told that they were not able to get all the schedules set the way they want to be able to practice in the afternoons.
Yeah, the way that I understand it, though, Bill, they take Mondays off. They practice on Sunday. Well, I think the old Spurrier schedule, I'm going to take Mondays off this season.
Okay, so I actually think that was I think Spurrier took Sundays off, and I think it was the Muschamp schedule there that they came back and practiced. But I think they did a light walkthrough last night. I know, again, Beamer having a teleconference last night. But yeah, big takeaways from the weekend. South Carolina does what they're supposed to do. They win handily. The defense does what they're supposed to do. And also, again, as far as we know, according to Shane Beamer last night, and this is important to talk about, no significant injuries. And, you know, guys, we've talked about it. It felt like this was a talking point for the last few years under Will Muschamp. It felt like you were constantly dealing with preseason significant injuries and then an opening game. I think, what was it, the Coastal Carolina game that DJ Wanham got rolled up on in the opener? It just felt like you were always dealing with something. And that does feel like something that's another big difference between the previous coaching staff and this one, the previous strength and conditioning coach. I know Luke Doty injury, you got Rick Sandage, but it does feel like that this is a little bit different.
Well, Kevin Harris didn't play either, and I know he was out with an illness technically, but had not participated fully in preseason practice because of a back procedure. What happens with him this Saturday, the fact that Shane Beamer came out and said he's not naming his starting quarterback was really interesting, with Luke Doty having dressed out for that game on Saturday night, going through some pregame warm-ups, just being out there, I think encouraging for Gamecock football moving forward. But then how healthy will he be? How effective will he be if he plays against East Carolina? Some of the questions that will certainly come up this week, and I don't think we'll be able to answer until Saturday. Patrick, you said off the air on the video stream anyway, you wanted to get to more winners and losers around college football. Do you feel like we were able to cover most of those? As it's a nearly impossible job, I feel like, every Monday morning after the first weekend of college football. But after we got tremendous nights and finishes on Thursday night when Minnesota was up relatively late against Minnesota. Then Friday night, you got Virginia Tech and North Carolina. You got Charlotte upsetting Duke. Then Saturday night, you had the Clemson-Georgia finish and the slugfest that thing was, not to mention the Gamecocks in the 46-0 win against Eastern Illinois that was. And then last night, 38-20, I thought Notre Dame was going to go ahead and put Florida State away. It was the exact opposite, the Mackenzie Milton story, the comeback, forcing overtime. Notre Dame survives 4 straight nights. Fantastic college football.
So much. That's what's so hard, because everyone wants to talk about South Carolina, and we do for 2.5 hours, and then we got to try and fit every other take into that short window. That's why I just ranted about all of the losers, because there were more losers this week than winners.
Somebody
Need a break.
The beholder, isn't that? You say that with such confidence. That to me, that's just what have you?
Well, there's a lot of FCS. There's a lot of Group of 5 teams that are really happy, but I don't care about them.
LeVar, hilarious. Are Patrick and Heath the same person? He did with the laughing out loud emoji.
Oh no, what did the Colorado Buffaloes do? I actually didn't pay attention.
No clue. And then Troy says, for what it's worth, South Carolina opened as a 2-point favorite, but the line has moved to East Carolina yet. I saw one of the books put that out as well, and then I've seen we're going to stick, I think, with the old Action Sports Network, since they gave us or helped give us the line for Eastern Illinois, and it turned out to be pretty spot on. It opened up at 43, right? And final score is 46-0. That's not how it opened up there, at least according to what I looked up this morning, that East Carolina was a 2.5-point favorite. And part of the intrigue going into week number 2 for sure with Shane Beamer and company. We'll get the bow on the show, the dramatic conclusion coming up, our final thoughts on our Labor Day holiday extravaganza. Glad you're making the early game part of your routine today on 107.5 The Game.
College football playoffs are here.
Sometime, crew is up against it. The brakes are beating the boys. Tell them.
Great time to be a college football fan. Great few nights we've just had. The timing right now, absolutely perfect in so many ways, I think, for those of us who love college football to be able to celebrate it. Timing right now pretty crazy in the housing market as well. So it's a great time for you to give a call to Buford Lending. 843-524-2404 is the number. Benji Getzy and his team at Buford Lending been doing it for 25 years. Plenty of experience, no matter what your situation might be. If you're looking to refinance right now, the numbers that Benji Getzy showed me in my situation, astounding. And I know he will find you the best deal. He's just asking for you to give him a call and to give him a chance to prove to you that he can get you the best deal out there, that Buford Lending will find you the best bargain for your money, the best way to use your money. If you're looking for other types of loans out there, VA loan, FHA, USDA, conventional construction or renovation, Buford Lending, plenty of experience doing all of that as well. And from firsthand experience, I can tell you that Buford Lending is a lender that you can trust throughout that lending process. They've been there for me. Let them be there for you. That's Buford Lending. Give Benji Getzy a call, 843-524-2404. Oh, you get a wardrobe change?
Yeah, I'm ready to get active as soon as the show ends.
You're going to brunch? You getting brunch going?
I don't know if it's gonna be brunch or breakfast, or if we're gonna do West Nashville, or just head downtown and walk around Broadway or something. But
Whoa! Now, what transitions breakfast to brunch? Is it just a drink?
well, it's only
7:50. I got it. It's only an hour difference.
It won't be brunch. I don't think that'll be possible.
So it's just a time of the day thing for you?
Yeah.
Gotcha.
Yesterday was for sure brunch though, because we had breakfast food at 1.
Strong. Got a little kegs and eggs this morning. You can.
I would be in on that. I didn't really drink yesterday. It was a tough Friday and Saturday.
Strong performance.
It was, yeah, I was
We did not feel good like all day yesterday because of Friday and Saturday. I had a moonshine Bloody Mary at brunch yesterday, and that's all I needed for the day.
Whoa, never heard of a moonshine Bloody Mary.
Me neither. It was good though.
And we can confirm that was not a beer you just took a sip of?
No, this is a raspberry iced tea.
Okay. Good news.
Raspberry tea is like probably one of my favorite drinks in the world.
Really?
So I don't know if I'm going to mention it because it was put out publicly in an email for the zone for stocking the locker. But there is a weird on September 24th or whatever, the day before the Kentucky game. I think I mentioned this to you off air last week, but there is a Gamecock Gastro Pub, and it appears to be in the stadium. I think it's down in the Cockaboose Club, because when we were down there, you saw the River Rat, I think it was beer taps.
Right.
And it looks like it's open from 4 to 7 in the stadium, and you can go. It's called Gamecock Gastro Pub. It says enter the stadium on the south side.
And anybody can go?
I don't know. Well, that's why I'm saying it because it's in an email, so it's not like some kind of
big secret.
Yeah, but I don't know what it is because it doesn't tell. It says open Fridays before home games, 4 p.m. to 7 p.m. I mean, it doesn't say.
Oh, that's really cool.
It says Williams-Brice Stadium entry is available at the south end of the stadium beginning with Friday, September 24th. So I don't know what that is. It just says Gamecock Gastro Pub. And the only one I can think of is the Cockaboose Club,
right?
Where it had those beer taps.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Maybe somehow they can run them all the way up to the zone. I mean, that would be the place to do it, obviously, right?
Yeah.
All right, you need to research that a little more in depth and give us full information.
Well, that's what I kind of want to, because your stocking the locker time is from 12 to 4 that day.
Right.
So basically, you're done stocking your locker at 4, and this little pub opens. Right.
Jen, let's go one final piece of audio here.
What you got?
14, please.
Why is it not going?
Just really, really thankful and fortunate and grateful to be here. And it was really just just a fun night. You know, I was going to make sure certainly I did what I had to do as the head coach to make decisions throughout the night, but I made sure that I was going to also enjoy the heck out of it as well, and I did.
Shane Beamer certainly not the only one, but leading the way in the 46-0 win over Eastern Illinois. Gamecock fans celebrating and moving on. I mentioned the word cathartic to start this hour. I think it's a good way to finish as well. A cathartic experience by about 65,000 people at Williams-Brice Stadium on Saturday night, Bill. Getting a win, doing it in dominating fashion, and doing things that haven't happened for years. The shutout hasn't happened in 13 years, since 2008. The blocked punts haven't happened in 7 years, in 2014. Again, it was against a team that you should have done some things like that against, but Carolina did it. Checked a bunch of boxes and move forward in the Shane Beamer era, move away from the Will Muschamp stuff, I think, that might have been lingering in 2021 now. Looking pretty sunny headed into week number 2. That's what I take out of the opening weekend. What about you?
40.
The season rolls on. The season, I think you feel good. I think you're excited about this weekend. All right, it's a step up in competition. It's a road game. It's one that South Carolina,
30.
You know, they're not favored. They are a more talented team. But what is Vegas doing? So I think we got. Good news is we got 4 more days to break it down and get fired up for another weekend of college football.
Patrick, any more losers you want to let us know about?
No, I think I covered them all.
How about that? You got
Clemson.
Patrick out of that. Oh, there it is. The shot. Thanks for listening to the early game here on 107.5 The Game. Dan Patrick Show's next. Local coverage all day here on 107.5 The Game.
Over Columbia. This 107.5 The Game. WNKT.
All right. We'll let Patrick get to his Labor Day celebration. And the rest of you, thank you guys. Thanks for joining us on the holiday edition here. Jen, nice work there. You got one last frustration with the Beamer audio. Pause there. Glad to get that out.
Someday I'll smile every day for a week. It will happen.
Then I'll be very, very afraid.
Yep,
Yeah,
smiling
you
Jen.
should be. You'll see my pink, either the pink slip or the resignation letter will be there. I don't know.
Josh wins for sucking up the most. He says, I think you guys are the winners for bringing us the best Gamecock coverage even on Labor Day.
Thank you.
Solid.
Josh. Attaboy, Troy. You call out any more regulars that show up tomorrow. We'll let you be the bouncer.
Attaboy.
You guys enjoy the holiday. We'll talk to you tomorrow morning.